stopping us, baby. Let's go, Jays!
Don't change anything. Go, Jays, go!
Go, Jays, go!
That was the best moment of my life.
We've been waiting since 1993 to do this, so let's do this. Let's make it a big thing.
I born ready, and I want it all for the city.
Swing and a laser. Left field in deep. Sinking toward the bullpen. Gone!
Heaven's a seeker on an empty street. Just an alley creeper, light on his feet. A young fighter screaming with no time for doubt. With the pain and anger, can't see a way out. It ain't much time asking. I heard him say, gotta find me a future. Move out of my way. I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now. I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
On the ground, up the middle, base hit right center. Springer gets the wave around third. He'll score easily. Into third, Vladdy, and Varsho ties it in the first. And the two-strike pitch. He got him. Swing and a miss, strike three on a breaking ball down and in. Shane Bieber with a huge punch-out, two down.
A swing and a fly ball to left field. Back goes Arozarena. She's gone! George Springer puts the Blue Jays on top with a huge three-run homer.
He's been doing it his whole life, coming up with big hits in the postseason. None bigger than that one right there.
Hoffman's payoff pitch. He got it! The Blue Jays win the pennant! The Blue Jays win the pennant! They're going to the World Series!
And for the first time in 32 years, the Blue Jays have won the pennant.
Ain't much time asking if you want the truth. Here's to the future. He's a crying. I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now. I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
Do you want it all? I feel as though there was a roar heard clear across the country last night. And let me tell you, there were a few tears shed in the Farwell household as the Blue Jays did what they have not done in 32 years. They are headed back to the World Series. Never would I ever have believed that the Blue Jays would be doing that, especially considering the way this season started. Our good friend, Ian Hunter, the one and only Blue Jay Hunter, will join us at 9:30 to talk more about the game last night. But by all means, if you are still excited or if you're even awake, I mean, am I awakening you from your slumber, peaceful slumber after we stayed up late to watch the Blue Jays last night? Incredible stuff from where I'm sitting. Again, considering the way the season started. And last night, I mean, would you have wanted it any other way? In retrospect, sure. You were probably very much like we were at home thinking, oh boy, like, can the offense wake up here? Would you mind if we got this moving in the right direction? It just seemed to be. But remember, the Blue Jays had more comeback wins than any other team in the majors this year. And so what better way to finish it off than the way they finished it off last night? The big George Springer home run in the seventh to send the Blue Jays back to the World Series. Doug is on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike. Well. I got to tell you, at one point last night, I happened to be on the phone with my son. And the last time this actually last time they won the World Series, he was quite young. We were in our living room, and I think I wound up with my knees on the floor. Last night, at the one point there where Naylor turned his back and jumped and got in the way of the throw from Clement to first base, I couldn't believe my eyes, to tell you the truth. But I was an umpire for over 16 years, and my son joined me for a while. And both of us said right away, the guy at first base is out because that's interference. And I couldn't believe how long it took them to make up their minds. But and then the Seattle manager went off the deep end. I'm sorry, the guy turned his back and jumped in the way of the ball. That's interference, and he's out. And anyway, when that ball left the field, left the park last night, my eyes were moist and I was tingling all over. I couldn't believe that Springer had done it again and again and again. I'm glad that Vladdy won the MVP and deserved it, but Springer was right there with him.
You know what, Doug? I think you're absolutely right about that. An incredible season for one of the older players on the Toronto Blue Jays. And, of course, Springer had all that success with the Houston Astros before coming over to the Blue Jays in 2021. The Blue Jays X account was having a whole heck of a lot of fun last night. And one of the things that it shared was the quote-unquote breaking news of the Blue Jays signing George Springer back in 2021. But a monster home run, perhaps, and we will discuss this with Blue Jay Hunter when he joins us just after 9:30. The biggest home run in Blue Jays history is Joe Carter's home run, still going to be ranked as number one. How about Jose Bautista's bat flip home run back in 2015? It's up there, what Springer did last night. And you can relive that moment, or at least the aftermath of it, on our Facebook page this morning, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. The picture of Springer on his way to first base, jumping in the air in celebration. Gary, Farwell's Force, member number 41. Good morning.
Good morning, buddy. Oh, my God. You know, my lovely better half, you know, she does the same job with myself at Transit. But she has to get up at like 3:30 in the morning. She's like, babe, I can't, I'm not going to, but I gave her, you know, credit. She stayed up till at least 10, you know, maybe close. She goes, okay, I got to go to bed. So I'm out there in the living room, and, you know, I've watched Springer, you know, for the last few games and his struggles at the plate with, you know, and I saw the game with the ball off the knee, and, you know, I'm like, man, oh man, it's, you know, he's probably extremely frustrated, I'm sure, as, you know, us fans watching, because we know what he can do. And, you know, so there I am in the living room last night and all by myself, and he came up, and I thought, man, if he could turn this around, and wow, like I was jumping around in the living room, and I'm like, man, I better not wake her up. But, you know, when I came to bed, I'm like, hey, babe, guess what? We're going to the World Series. She went, oh my God. So, but yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It certainly is.
Oh man, it's 32 years, and I remember I was living in Halifax, and I watched Carter. I was watching TV in Halifax when they won that home run. But man, it feels good to be a Blue Jay fan and to be Canadian, and I really hope you know, they do well against the Dodgers.
Well, that's going to be the big thing now, absolutely. And the Dodgers are kind of a super team, aren't they? Just on the George Springer front, getting hit in the knee. How about some instant karma for those Seattle fans that cheered Springer when he got hit and was down hurt in that game? And now Springer hits the dinger that puts the Blue Jays over the Seattle Mariners to go to the World Series. Christine, good morning.
Good morning. Way to go, Blue Jays.
Way to go, Blue Jays.
Let's rock the Dodgers now.
That is the next goal. And again, it won't be easy because those Dodgers are a big and powerful team. Jason, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I, like so many Canadians, were on edge for Game 7 and wasn't sure what to expect. And then our good friend Vladdy Jr. walks into the building with that white Maple Leafs jersey on. And
how about that, eh? Like that's pretty ballsy, I think.
I was a little concerned. I thought maybe he chose the wrong attire, knowing the Leafs' history with Game 7s. I was getting a little worried there.
I'm with you. I'm like, what are we doing here? But maybe, Jason, how about this? Maybe Vladdy broke the curse.
Oh, I don't know, Mike. Our lifetime, we might see a World Series, but I don't know if you're going to see a Stanley Cup in Toronto in our lifetime.
Why do you want to be that way to me this morning? Let's just focus on the positive, shall we? All right, thanks for the call this morning. I'm hoping, I'm going with Vladdy broke the Game 7 curse.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 21st of October, the morning after the big Blue Jays win. And so our Farwell 5 is Blue Jays focused, at number 1. We were talking all day yesterday about Game 7 between the Blue Jays and the Mariners, and this is what Blue Jays designated hitter George Springer had to say before the game.
This is what you play for as a player. This is what you want. I think everyone's excited, so I'll look forward to it.
He was looking forward to it. Just keep that in mind. Number 2 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Seattle scored first last night, but the Blue Jays tied it in the bottom of the first.
Kick in the 0-1 pitch. On the ground, up the middle, base hit right center. Springer gets the wave around third. He'll score easily. Into third, Vladdy, and Varsho ties it in the first. RBI single, it's 1-1 in Game 7.
There you go, 1-1. But you see, the problem was number 3 on your Farwell Show 5. The Blue Jays bats took a while to warm up, and the Mariners would add to their lead in the 3rd and the 5th innings, making it 3-1 Seattle in the 7th. But then do you remember how George Springer said he was looking forward to Game 7?
1-0 pitch. Swing and a fly ball. Left field and deep. Arozarena turns. Gone! A Springer dinger. 4-3 Blue Jays in the bottom of the 7th. One knee, no problem. You have to have that guy in a big game, and he crushed a pitch out to left center.
You have got to be kidding me, Ben. That is the best moment in sports I have ever seen.
There was a moment in that clip that I kind of edited out. I'm not sure what the color commentator was doing. There's just a little sound. I thought, did he have a moment? Did he weep? There were tears in the Farwell household after that Springer dinger in the 7th inning. I just couldn't quite tell on the audio what had happened to Ben Schulman's broadcast partner there for a moment. But that was the hit that gave the Blue Jays the lead 4-3. And number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Jeff Hoffman was then set up to be on the mound for the save. And we heard the sound that we have not heard in 32 years.
Hoffman's payoff pitch. He got it! The Blue Jays win the pennant! The Blue Jays win the pennant! They're going to the World Series! It's so good, we must be dreaming! The Toronto Blue Jays come back, knock off the Mariners, and they will take on the LA Dodgers!
And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5, after dropping not 1 but 2 F-bombs on live TV during an on-field interview, John Schneider got into the clubhouse and had this to say to his team.
American League East champions, American League Division champions, American League champions. Wait! First time in 32 years the World Series comes back to this city and this country. So proud of every one of you. Enjoy every single moment of this tonight because you guys earned the out of it. Let's go!
I mean, you can earn something, and then you can earn the bleep out of something. That is John Schneider. After the big win for the Blue Jays, 4-3 the final. The Blue Jays take the series by the same 4-3 count, and now we'll move on to play the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 21st of October. That World Series schedule, by the way, Friday, Saturday in Toronto let that sink in for a moment. I've called these LA Dodgers a super team, and I think, in fairness, they are. But the Toronto Blue Jays had a better regular season record than the LA Dodgers. So we get home field advantage. Friday, Saturday in Toronto. Then next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in LA. And then Friday, Halloween, the 31st, and Saturday, November the 1st, games 6 and 7 back in Toronto. That is your World Series schedule as your Toronto Blue Jays are World Series bound. What a night. What a morning. Many of us probably, I wonder if the Blue Jays, you think they're asleep yet? I'm not so sure. They might be asleep by now, but you know they had a good old time deep into the night, and they deserved it. All right, just before we take our break, and remember, Ian Hunter will be here, our one and only Blue Jay Hunter, to break down what happened, and we're going to get into the meaningfulness of that Springer home run. Where is it going to rank in all-time Blue Jays home run history? So that's coming up after the 9:30 news. But I did want to share with you a story that came across my radar yesterday, and I was curious to get your thoughts on it because I've got some ideas associated with this. What we had was up in the Barrie area on the weekend. A driver pulled over in a ride check late Saturday night on Essa Road near the highway, the 400. So you probably know the area. If you're up in the Barrie area, you can see the Essa Road exit. And this driver, 11:30 on a Saturday night, charged with impaired driving. Here's the thing. And you know how I feel, and we've talked about this before. You know how I feel about impaired driving first and foremost. It is the most preventable crime that gets committed because you have a choice. Easily, you have a choice. Before you go out, you make a different choice. After you overindulge, you make a choice. And the choice should never be getting behind the wheel of your car. And I think we have to be so much stricter when it comes to drunk driving penalties because it just keeps happening and happening. But here's the twist with this particular fella up Barrie Way late Saturday night. When he's pulled over and charged with impaired, he's got 2 kids, ages 2 and 6, in the vehicle with him. Are you kidding me right now? So not only are you impaired, about to enter the 400, Highway 400, which is busy, and you've already gotten to that point. How many people have you put at risk already? How many more people are you putting at risk? And oh yeah, by the way, you've got 2 kids in the car with you. And I'm wondering if we might not need a special kind of penalty for something like this. If I go out with buddies and the driver overindulges and I decide to get into the car with my buddy who has overindulged, I'm an adult. We're all still idiots, but we can make that choice. Well, the 2 and the 6-year-old, what choice do they have? Presumably, this is dad getting behind the wheel of the car, strapping the kids in. If you're 2 years old, you're going to be still in a car seat. But the kids don't have a choice here. You are recklessly endangering their well-being in doing this. So along with impaired, I mean, what else should be added to the charge because there are children involved in it? I think that there has to be something like beyond just an impaired driving charge here, putting at risk 2 children who can't opt out, right? You put them in the vehicle. Their lives are your responsibility. I can't help but think maybe, just maybe, we need to create an exception to the law here to account for something as brain dead as what this gentleman did. Not only are you charged with impaired, but there's got to, is it reckless endangerment? I don't know. Is it criminal negligence? But something beyond just an impaired driving charge because you put the lives of 2 children at risk immediately at the same time by putting them in the car. The kids can't opt out in that case. Adults can make the choice if they get into the car with somebody who's had too much to drink. Kids have no choice. Do we need a special kind of law for something this specially stupid? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Russell sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com, and it seems as though Russell and I are of like mind when it comes to the driver up near Barrie, pulled over late Saturday night in a ride check program and charged with impaired driving. The twist is, I mean, that happens how many times? Every weekend, everywhere, sadly. It just blows my mind that we have not yet gotten through the thickness of our skulls, the absolute foolishness that it is to drive while under the influence, alcohol or drugs. But in this particular case on Saturday, this gentleman pulled over, had 2 children, ages 2 and 6, in the vehicle with him. And I can't help but think the charge in this particular case has got to go beyond simply impaired driving. And Russell's email to Mike at 570news.com says child endangerment. Fair enough. Criminal negligence came to mind for me as well. I just think there has to be a charge greater than an impaired driving charge for the operator of that vehicle. You've put 2 children in the vehicle with you, and I mean that the way I said it. You put the kids into that car. They didn't really have a choice to opt out, did they? And that is just an awful, awful idea all around. And I can't help but think that we need to change the way we lay charges in situations like that. Speaking of behaviors, and this is not in a criminal sense, but we heard during All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas that with the celebration of Diwali, there were many fireworks complaints received by regional police last evening. We are at a time, and I heard this on the afternoon news yesterday, we're at a time in our region where fireworks are allowed in the various municipalities that still allow them. Remember, we are moving towards those all-out bans, but I found it interesting. The language used was that the rules differ from one municipality to the next. And that's just in terms of the time of day, right? Cambridge allows them till 11. Kitchener and Waterloo allow them till 10. Kitchener allows just the one day. Waterloo still allows a little bit of time around the actual day of the holiday. But I just found it interesting that, the language was the rules differ from one municipality to the next. How about, though, we just go into this with the understanding that we don't point and shoot fireworks at one another? I mean, that would be a pretty good baseline for starting this. But like you, I'm assuming we feel similarly in this regard as well. Can't be surprised that there were complaints called in about the use of fireworks last night. We live in a busier, fuller, more crowded city than we've ever lived in before. And it occurs to me, and I've shared this before, we are just not as tolerant of our neighbors as we used to be. There were some fireworks in and around our place last night. Didn't bother me a whole lot. Maybe that's because I was up watching the baseball game. And when I came into work this morning, Justin Kohler, our morning reporter, I passed him on my way into the building. He said, I don't know how my neighbors felt last night when I was starting to cheer after that Springer dinger in the 7th. I said, you know what? For one night, the neighbors can get over it. We're still coming down from Cloud 9, and Blue Jay Hunter will join us after this update from the 570 News Center to talk about that big home run and where it ranks in Blue Jays history. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
1-0 pitch. Swing and a fly ball. Left field and deep. Rosarena turns. Gone! A Springer dinger. 4-3 Blue Jays in the bottom of the 7th. One knee, no problem. You have to have that guy in a big game, and he crushed a pitch out to left center.
You have got to be kidding me, Ben. That is the best moment in sports I have ever seen.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
The best moment in sports he has ever seen, probably because he was not alive in 1993 when Joe Carter hit a World Series winning home run. But nonetheless, that happened last night. The big home run from George Springer in the 7th inning, turning a 3-1 deficit into a 4-3 lead that the Blue Jays would not relinquish. And so who better to start our day with other than Ian Blue Jay Hunter. Good morning.
Good day. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did that happen?
It did.
Okay.
I know. I you know why I know it happened? Because I think I've watched it 40 times more this morning.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it. Every angle, you name it.
I think the feeling I think most people are having and that I had last night was surreal. Like it doesn't feel like it actually happened. I mean, it's how bad of luck have Toronto fans had in Game 7s traditionally, right? We've seen this movie before, maybe not necessarily with the Blue Jays, but with the Toronto Maple Leafs and whatnot. And the way that George Springer saved the Blue Jays season, that home run, I feel like is probably the second biggest hit in franchise history. All of a sudden, like no offense to Jose Bautista with the bat flip, Encarnacion sealing the fate in 2016 with the wild card. I mean, that's the second biggest hit next to Joe Carter's to win the World Series in 1993.
I would tend to agree with that, and we'll get into it in more depth in just a couple of minutes. But you wrote something for Blue Jays Nation yesterday about the weight of a Game 7.
Yeah.
And if you didn't spend 162 regular season games and then what did we have? We had 4 against 11 postseason, or 10 at that point postseason games to get there. So 172 games into the year to get there. It wouldn't be as big a deal as it was. But what was your mindset yesterday going into this game?
I mean, especially after the Jays went down 2-0, I think that was the last time we spoke, right? And we were saying about how 84% of the time, the team that goes up 2-0 in that series wins that. And the Jays were going into Seattle for those 3 games. Yesterday, I was just like, anything could happen. It was just, bring on the calamity, bring on the sports chaos. Like somebody is going to be the most happiest fan base, and the other is going to have a dagger put through their heart. And I kind of feel sympathy for the Mariners fans, right? Because they've never been to the Fall Classic. The Jays and the Mariners both came into the league of the same year, 1977. Jays have won the World Series twice. They will now go there for the 3rd time. So you feel sympathy for the Mariners fans, but at the same time, I think probably the word to describe yesterday was stressful, right? Because everything was on the line. I think they just kind of chipped away game after game. You thought that going into Seattle, maybe they have a chance. And then the way the Game 5 ended, I thought, oh no, is this the Toronto sports moment? Like the putting in Brendan Little instead of Jeff Hoffman. And now, thank God, we don't have to talk about that ever again, because my timeline was flooded with comments about that. So I think today is just elation, happiness, surreal, not believing that it actually happened, and then getting ready for the World Series on Friday, because now the Jays are suddenly, they have home field advantage. So games 1 and 2 will be in Toronto on Friday and Saturday.
Not believing it actually happened, because, Ian, this team, and we have regular chats during the regular season on the show every Wednesday morning. And in June, a 26-28 Blue Jays club, we're like, all right, well, how are you going to dismantle this and start over again? Of course you don't believe that this just happened.
Yeah, and I mean, even because we're in the weeds, right? Like, you kind of don't really believe it's happening. Or maybe we didn't really appreciate what they did during the regular season, that hill or that mountain that they climbed, overtaking the Yankees in early July and not giving the division back. And a year ago, they finished in last place, Mike. Like, they did make some off-season additions. Most of them didn't even contribute to this team, right? Like Santander gave them basically nothing. Andres Jimenez had some big home runs in the postseason. But for the most part, a lot of the nucleus of this team was the same from last year. And now they're going to the World Series. So I can't wrap my head around it. It's still, I think a lot of people are on cloud nine right now. And I think until first pitch of the World Series, I don't think it's going to set in for a lot of Jays fans.
You talked about going to Seattle down 2-0, and then all of a sudden it's a 2-2 series, but Game 5 comes up, and oh my goodness, the Brendan Little disaster that happened. Is that history? Like, does John Schneider, based on this now, just escape any blowback, any fallout from that?
In that situation, yes. We've still got some games here to play. The funny thing is, I mean, I took a lot of heat on X for this. At the time, I didn't hate the move. In retrospect, yeah, they should have gone to Hoffman in that situation to make it best on best. But I think Brendan Little was a guy who does not tend to give up a lot of home runs. He pitches down in the zone. So his fatal flaw is he tends to walk a lot of guys, which he did. He walked 2 hitters, gave up a home run to Cal Raleigh. But that was so defeating, right? Because the Jays had all the momentum. They're protecting a 2-1 lead, potentially sending the series back to Toronto with a chance to win it in Game 6. And I just thought, I've seen this Toronto movie before. I've seen this Toronto sports movie. People, over the years, you get cynical, right? You feel like they're not going to be able to do this. And yesterday, Vladdy shows up in an Austin Matthews Maple Leafs jersey. And every Jays fan thought the same thing. Oh no, here we go again. And they reversed the curse. Like, I realize this is the World Series. They still got a job to do, but I mean, this is so impactful. Like, I just think of like my kids' generation. This is the team that they're going to cling to now. And it's so cool to watch. Like, this was their moment. It was every Jays fan's moment, but I think the younger generation is really going to appreciate this.
It wasn't lost on me that Brendan Little never even got off his duff to warm up last night.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre game, seeing Kevin Gausman coming in the 7th inning down by 2 runs. And then Chris Bassett, I think one thing we probably won't talk about was him throwing that inning of scoreless relief in the 8th inning. That was incredible. The strikeout to Eugenio Suarez, one of the most clutch moments in the playoffs that we've seen. And yeah, we didn't see Brendan Little. We did see Jeff Hoffman at the end there. He threw 2 innings in Game 6 and shut it down last night, locking down the top of the Mariners order. I mean, at times, Jeff, it's been a really weird, not bad, but an up and down experience with Jeff Hoffman this season, right? But the dude has been money for the most part in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think there was. I'm still shocked that I didn't wake my children last night with all the. If you heard a lot of screaming last night, it was warranted. But I want to thank my kids for not coming downstairs last night.
I'm surprised police got those complaints about fireworks and not about Blue Jays fans, because there was a lot of celebration pretty late when Springer hit that home run, which came in the bottom of the 7th. So let's talk about that. Everybody knows Joe Carter's World Series winning home run in Game 6, mind you. It wasn't a Game 7, but Game 6 of the 93 series versus Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So we got that one. Jose Bautista's bat flip moment, which was the 2015 ALDS, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, deciding game.
Deciding
5.
game.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, the bat flip itself. I'm not sure that bat has come down yet from the rafters of the Rogers Center. So you had that one. You alluded to Encarnacion's hit in the following year in 2016. That was a wild card, right?
That's right.
Yep. And then you've got Springer last night. It's like, where is George Springer's home run going to land in the overall rankings of big Blue Jays home runs?
It's crazy to say this, but like I said earlier, I think it's number 2 right now. Like, given the stakes, a Game 7 of an ALCS, they were losing that game. The Mariners were 9 outs away from advancing to the World Series. And George Springer, the Blue Jays were not dead, but they were on life support, right? They scored, they tied that game 1-1, but then the Mariners came in and they just chipped away. Shane Bieber did not have his best stuff last night. Came out of that game early, and the Mariners it was, all these solo home runs. It didn't get away from them. It was very similar to what we saw in Game 1, where the Mariners bullpen would come in and it was like a boa constrictor. They just kind of hung on. And the Jays got runners on base, but they couldn't capitalize. So, in comes in the 7th inning, you get 2 runners on base. Andres Jimenez comes on and sacrifice bunts both guys over into scoring position, which at first glance, I thought, wouldn't you rather have him swing the bat? But again, me, Ian Hunter, being an idiot. And I'm not a baseball manager. It didn't matter because George Springer came in. And the wild thing is, you remember Kirk Gibson from the...
Oh, my gosh, absolutely.
I realize it's not the same. It's apples and oranges. That was the World Series. This was the ALCS. But Springer's not obviously 100%, right? He took a ball off the knee at like 95 miles an hour a couple games ago, and he had some bad swings in Game 6. And he comes in, and it just punctuates the season that he's had. A Cinderella season. He's turning 36 this year. And he picked the Blue Jays up off the mat and put him on his back and said, I'm taking you guys to the World Series. And you said you've already watched the clip 30 times. I've seen it probably 50. And it's been less than 24 hours. Like, we're going to talk about this for decades, Mike. I don't care what happens from here on out, but this is a staple moment in the franchise.
No question about it. So you are keeping then. You said second biggest. So Carter's World Series winning home run, number 1. And then Springer here at number 2.
So, okay, now that I've thought about it a little more, let's give some props to Ed Sprague.
I know. See, I didn't even bring it up, but I think he gets overlooked.
Okay, so let me reconfigure a little bit.
And that's 92.
The 92 World Series came up off the bench.
Yes.
Pitch hit, go ahead home run. Okay, so can I slot Springer down to 3 for now?
And you can do whatever you want.
And we'll put Sprague at number 2.
Okay.
Just given they were World Series home runs, right? The gravity of the moment. But it's wild now because I tweeted this out last night. I never thought I'd see a bigger home run from a Blue Jays hitter in the 21st century in the playoffs than Jose Bautista's bat flip. Never thought that. And it happened last night.
Also 7th inning Bautista's, but that was a tie game back in 15. So that's what I think puts this one from Springer, right? Because you needed every one of those runs off Springer's bat to get the lead.
Yeah, and that Bautista one, you kind of felt the momentum coming. There was the Rangers made several errors in that inning. There was a bit of a buildup. But to me, it just, because the Mariners were coming in, they were having their high leverage relievers. It felt like they were closing in on that win. So I just felt like Springer delivered in a bigger situation than Bautista did. And given it was to send the team to the World Series, I love Jose Bautista. He's my favorite Blue Jay of all time. But yeah, Springer's, we'll say number 3. Number 3 in all-time list.
All right, so Joe Carter at 1, Ed Sprague. Yep. I like it. He deserves his due at number 2. Springer 3, Bautista 4. Throw Encarnacion in there at 5, maybe. Okay, but anyway, where do you rank Springer's home run from last night, Blue Jays fans? We'll continue our conversation with Blue Jay Hunter and take your calls because we're going to the World Series, baby. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, let's drop another home run into the mix, Ian Hunter. Marino sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. Roberto Alomar's homer in Oakland off of Dennis Eckersley, which is another good one from 92. That was in the American League Championship Series.
Correct.
And it tied the game. Sprague had the home run that you were ranking number 2 in Game 2 of the World Series. That was versus Atlanta that year. And then, of course, we've got the rest of them. But Alomar's was big. The moment was massive. Eckersley was almost unhittable at that time.
Yeah, and the build-up to that one, too, if I remember, the Blue Jays had the moniker of chokers in the playoffs leading up to 1992, right? In 95, they came in, won the division. They were up 3-0 against Kansas City and lost. They lost in 89. They got steamrolled in 91. They had a reputation. They were like the pre-2000s Leafs, where they would get in and they would fold like a cheap lawn chair. So yeah, that Alomar home run was pretty big, but It's wild. Like that last night was history, Mike. It was history, and we saw it in front of our very eyes. Like I'm still having trouble wrapping my brain around it. So just enjoying the afterglow of the moment, I would say.
Can you wrap your brain around how we got here? I've heard the term resilience thrown around more times than I can count. And that's got to be the word to describe this club. You posted a picture last night on your X account of Ernie Clement when he was cheering the home run. You're like, Ernie Clement is every Blue Jays fan right now. There's something about these guys. I know John Schneider keeps saying it too, but there's something about this group of ball players, Ian.
There truly is. And I don't think I've seen a more likable cast of characters in recent Blue Jays history. I mean, Blue Jays fans in general, they love the 2015 and 2016 teams. But outside of Toronto, they didn't really have a great reputation. Like, you know, Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista, they were kind of perceived as jerks around Major League Baseball, right? But you look at the Blue Jays, are there any jerks on that roster?
Exactly. This is what I was thinking. They seem like guys that you want to cheer for these guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ernie Clement. I think he's the ultimate. He feels like a hockey player in a baseball player's body, right? He's just the grinder, a glue guy. Somebody who nearly has had as many hits as Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the playoffs. You go up and there's not one guy. I mean, Springer put this team on his back last night, but if you look at the collective Blue Jays season, it's always been somebody different. Whether it is the guys in the bullpen or the starting rotation or the starting lineup or pinch hits here and there, it's been everybody contributing up and down the lineup. So, I mean, they got a tough task. We'll talk about this more tomorrow against the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't think anyone south of the border has given the Blue Jays a chance, but the Blue Jays have a really well-rounded team. I think last night was their 51st comeback win of the season, including the playoffs and the regular season. They're the comeback kids, right? This is their MO, and they did it again last night, and maybe they'll do it a few more times in the World Series.
They got home field advantage. Don't forget that. They had a better record than the LA Dodgers in the regular season.
Yeah, and this, as we saw, aside from games 1 and 2 in the ALCS, I mean, this is a far superior team at home than on the road. So the fact that you've got home field in the World Series, if this goes to 6-7 games, it's very advantageous for these Blue Jays.
All right, before I let you go, and we will pick up tomorrow, talk more about the matchup, what things are going to look like versus the Dodgers, but a final note, Vladdy, in tears after this game last night. The contract was just signed this year. He's already earned every dollar, in my opinion.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think technically the contract doesn't start until next year, I believe.
Vladdy, you already signed it.
So, I mean, this is why, as hindsight's 20/20, Mike, but this is why you sign these guys for these moments, right? Like he had, I would say, an underwhelming regular season, but who cares? Who the heck cares? He came up when this series mattered the most and delivered. And that's what you pay the guy $500 million for. If they win the World Series, I don't want to say it doesn't matter what he does for the next 14 years, but he's already viewed as a god in this city. Imagine what else he's going to do for the rest of his Blue Jays career.
I am so excited for this guy. I've loved every minute of it. I'm already looking forward to tomorrow. We'll bring you back tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, for your regular segment and tee up the series matchup against the Dodgers.
Yeah, we'll get a regular night's sleep tonight.
We will do that, too. And good luck getting your Jays tickets.
Thank
the sales open in 3.5 minutes.
Thank you.
Ian Hunter, our Blue Jay Hunter, joins us in the afterglow of Game 7 glory for the Toronto Blue Jays. We are going to the World Series, baby. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
It seems that the developer wants to overdevelop the property because perhaps they paid a high price for the property. You know, with the financialization of housing, we know that occurs. You could easily pay several $1 million for a property like that. I don't want to be a victim of somebody else's commercial decision. Now, the proposed 2 towers will not and it's my view, but it's the view of a lot of people, will not contribute to alleviating the current national and local housing crisis. The housing crisis, the nub of it, is a shortage of affordable homes suitable for families. And I don't know of too many families that aspire to raise their children on the 29th floor and have them play out on the balcony. You know, it's not the kind of housing that addresses the severe housing crisis that we have in this country and in this city and community.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That is Uptown Waterloo resident Bob Publicover speaking at a meeting of Waterloo Council a couple of weeks ago. It was during that meeting that Waterloo Council considered a proposal for 2 condominium tower developments at what is currently the Urban Good Funeral Home on King Street South in Waterloo, near William. Those towers will stand more than 30 stories each, and Bob, along with other residents in the Uptown, are not sure this is the right approach. Bob joins us on the show this morning. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. I'm here with Jamie Rodriguez, my friend and neighbor. And Jamie took the initiative to organize some residents here because we feel essentially we agree with what you just said. The city, like most cities, is desperate for property tax income. They're restricted to the property tax as a source of income, so they tend to favor this type of development. But it's going to 38 stories, not only over 30, but to 38 stories, which we believe is excessive for this property, which sits between Mary Ellen and Westmount, both tree-lined neighborhoods of tree-lined streets and residents who walk to work, neighborhoods that many cities would be envious to have, and we don't want it broken up and damaged by the presence of these buildings. And fortunately, I guess one of the city planners agrees with us. He seems to have disappeared. I think his superiors have parked him somewhere. But Max Kerrigan, said on October 6th, it's my opinion that the site, the Urban Goods site, is a generous size for a single tower, however too constrained for 2 slab buildings. And as I said, that's in the justification report that the city wrote for the building, but they're still moving on. They also have a technically difficult plan to move the current Kunz Labatt's house, which sits on the property. It's a beautiful piece of architecture, and they want to move it over to one corner of the lot and run a restaurant there. But of course, the developer won't run the restaurant, and the developer won't retain ownership. So there's a lot of uncertainty in here that we're attempting to deal with. I think I should turn it over to Jamie, who's been a leader on this file. Yeah,
thanks, Bob. As Bob Publicover said, Jamie Rodriguez is with him on this call this morning. Together, they're members of a group known as Uptown Growth. And Jamie, I know that you were one of the driving forces behind this group. So can you share the roots of Uptown Growth and how the neighbors have come together here to respond to this tower proposal?
Sure. Thanks, Mike, for having us. So when we learned of this proposal, which was actually just about a week prior to the October 6th City Council meeting, there was some signs that were put up around the Urban Good Funeral Home. There were several of us that live in and around Uptown, in and around Urban Good, and we decided to attend that meeting. And so we learned more about the development, and that's where I met Bob. And so along with some other local residents, we formed a small group to spearhead this initiative, which we call Uptown Growth. And so since that meeting on October 6th, we have delivered some flyers to neighbors in the community, encouraging people to get involved. We have a link on those flyers, which I'm hoping if you could share those through your socials, so other people that are listening to this, if they're interested, they could get involved, because there certainly is power in numbers, and we're hoping that we could build a coalition, and we could get the support of city councilors and staff to support responsible, balanced development in Uptown Waterloo, because Mike, we're not anti-development. We welcome growth. In fact, we like to see growth, and there's growth happening right now at Allen Square. That building is currently being converted into apartments, which is great. It's great for the community. But what we're concerned is about over-intensification and overgrowth, and we believe that is what is happening here with this proposal by Vanmar.
So, Jamie, the initial knee-jerk response to something like this would be that this is just another neighborhood example of NIMBYism, right? Not in my backyard. You don't want condominium towers in your backyard. How do you respond to that as somebody who is impacted by this development?
Well, yeah, and I understand that argument, but if you live in the area as we do, or if you know this area, which I'm sure you do and many listeners do, this area has seen some growth. And like I said, we are not anti-growth, but it should be consistent and reasonable given the character and the livability of the area. So if you look at, like, by comparison, so the condos at Caroline and Park, which is just a stone's throw from the Urban Goods site. There are two towers there, Mike, and they are 22 and 19 stories, but the site is about 50% bigger. So let that sink in. So the Urban Goods site, 50% smaller, and what they're proposing are two massive towers that are almost double, pretty much double in size of any neighboring towers that currently exist. There's a tower right now at 181 King Street South, the Circa building, and that's 19 stories. So, we're talking about two towers that are going to be twice the size on a piece of land that is about 50% smaller than something that is, comparable at Caroline and Park. So it really, it really goes against the city's official plan and urban design guidelines, which, provide all sorts of details as to, how intensification should occur. And it seems to us that the city is not considering these goals, which, to kind of touch on a couple, they emphasize human scale development, prioritize in sorry, just looking at some notes here I have, because I'm not certainly not an expert on these things, but the idea is to basically support growth, but to maintain the livability of the city, and we think that this design doesn't do that.
Bob, you alluded earlier to a city planner in Waterloo who, to Jamie's point now, suggested that this was too big for the parcel of land that is available. Are there any other allies, if you will, that you've heard from, in planning or elsewhere that don't think this fits this particular site on King Street South?
Well, I can tell you that both the City of Toronto and the City of Ottawa have published guidelines for high-rise development. And they both propose that high-rise buildings should be a minimum of 25 meters apart. That's horizontally, which is about 82 feet. Well, we think that's likely impossible on this property. It's too small to do that. And these are important issues because, you need access around buildings of this height. And so I think it needs more study. What shocked me was when I looked at the City of Waterloo's development site, which for your information is at www.engagewr.ca, you will see that they have 29 projects right now that are currently under review, 29 apartment complexes, multiple housing complexes, and the total number of units in those complexes that are being reviewed for approval at the moment would be 22,087. Now that number will fluctuate. There'll be adjustments in different ones of those projects. But I don't know how the city can meaningfully and usefully absorb that kind of growth, especially when you consider the spatial dimensions of it all. So yeah, we think there's a lot of literature too in professional journals, the architecture journals, urban affairs journals, about high-rise developments, and the story. I was going to say the story is out. That there are both positive and negative attributes here. On the positive side, of course, you're putting more people into a specific space, but a lot of studies have been done which show some serious consequences to piling people up that high. They lose connection with the street. There's a number of issues that arise. Buildings like that are very expensive to maintain and to rebuild later. When they need to be reconstructed in 20 or 30 years. So yeah, there's a lot of considerations here, and a lot of people are working on it. So we'd like to see a little more study on this before the city goes ahead.
Jamie, where are you gentlemen and your neighbors at with the Uptown growth movement, and what steps do you plan on taking to ensure that the city is aware of your concerns?
So right now, Mike, last I checked, we have about 80, I think I have 82 people on the mailing list. And so that, things are underway and it's growing every single day. So Bob and I, along with our neighbors, Amy and others, we are sending communication out to that group to keep them informed of things that are happening around this, like this morning's show, our conversation with you. We also wrote to Councillor Julie Wright, and City Planner Joel Cotter to seek a meeting with them to share our concerns in detail and to actually have a conversation, because our hope is to talk about this. We sent an email and we outlined some of our concerns, but Mike, I'm really hopeful that Councillor Wright in particular would have a conversation with us, because we think some back and forth is needed here. We are the people that live in this community. I've heard actually from some of the members of our group who have lived here for a number of years, and they are really concerned about this proposal, and they plan on living here for a number of years to come. And I think that's another concern. And I mean, with all due respect to our city officials, some of them are here for a short time, whereas many of us have been living in this area for 10, 15, 20 years, and we'd like to live here for another 20 years. And so we would like to provide our insights into what it means to live in a livable city, which we think Waterloo is. It's a great city. We love living uptown Waterloo, and we think that it can grow, but it needs to, there needs to be a certain degree of consistency and reasonableness when it comes to projects like these.
I appreciate the both of you making time for our show this morning. I will definitely share that link to your survey through our social media channels, and I look forward to continuing the conversation as we move forward.
Yes,
thanks a lot, Mike.
Look forward to speaking with you again as things evolve.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Jamie. Bob Publicover and Jamie Rodrigue joining us on the show this morning. Members of Uptown Growth, a group of neighbors that have banded together to share their concerns about the 230-plus story. In fact, as noted here just in this conversation, one standing at almost 40 stories, a couple of condominium towers to be built where currently the Urban Good Funeral Home sits on King Street South near William in Uptown Waterloo. The adjacent Kuntz House, it is a beautiful piece of architecture, an old century home, is slated as part of this development to be moved slightly and possibly converted into a restaurant. But the big concern here for folks that live in that Mary Allen neighborhood, which I get all my east, wests, norths, and souths mixed up. But I would say if you're on King Street South heading into the Uptown, so you're on King approaching William, those neighborhoods off to your right, I'd call that south, but that's just because of the direction we're talking about here. Anyway, you've got all those nice neighborhoods that are walkable, beautiful old homes, and then you'd cross King and get into the Caroline area and take William up to Westmount and a whole bunch more of those beautiful, older, established neighborhoods are settled in there. And with a couple of 20-plus condominium towers already at Caroline and Park, these would be 2 new towers standing above the existing towers and definitely changing the dynamic of the neighborhood. As I said in that conversation with Jamie and Bob, this is not unfamiliar territory. When new developments are proposed, existing residents tend to push back because it is a disruption to the way of life that they have grown accustomed to. And I am certainly sympathetic to that. I've said this before. I mean, I understand that our community needs to change in these ways with greater intensification because we're growing to 1 million people. We're not supposed to grow out. We have to grow up. But it seems like every time you turn around, it's just another condominium. I mean, we shared some stats a week or so ago. The number of homes, the traditional homes that we've grown accustomed to, single-family homes, detached, it's a small fraction of what we are building across the region today. So as I've kind of joked, it's like the Oprah Winfrey-ication of development or of housing in this community. You get a condo, and you get a condo, and you get a condo. But nobody gets those, what did Doug Ford say? 1,800 square foot houses with backyards, driveways, fences, or whatever. It's just not the way that we're building these days. So I'm just curious from you, whether it's happening in your neighborhood or not. Because it's not happening in mine, at least not yet. Someday I'm sure it will be. But how do you feel about the way we are growing in this community? When you see another condominium tower go up, you see another development proposal, oh, there goes another condominium tower. How do you feel about the way that we are growing in this community? Let me know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Many of us have been living in this area for 10, 15, 20 years, and we'd like to live here for another 20 years. And so we would like to provide our insights into what it means to live in a livable city, which we think Waterloo is. It's a great city. We love living uptown Waterloo, and we think that it can grow, but there needs to be a certain degree of consistency and reasonableness when it comes to projects like these.
Jamie Rodrigue, a member of Uptown Growth, residents in the Uptown area of Waterloo who are pushing back against what they describe as an overwhelming proposal to build 2 30-plus story condominium towers at the site of the former or the current Herb and Good Funeral Home on King Street South. Let's go to the phones, hear from you on how we're growing. Dylan, good morning. What do you think about the way we're growing in this region?
Good morning. Just want to start by saying I kind of disagree with your comment before commercial break about condos everywhere and, condos. I live in the southwest side of Kitchener over by that new indoor park they're building. And, in the last 5 years, they put up thousands of single homes, townhomes, and no apartment buildings or condos. So there's plenty of single family houses going in. It's just not in the core. These guys you had on the radio, it sounds like they live in the core, the downtown, uptown part of a very large city. Now, we spent almost $1 billion putting a train through our core. We did that to move people around and for intensification. Build the buildings as tall as you want. These people that are putting up hundreds of millions of dollars to build a building, they're not going to build one that people don't want to live in. Sorry to say, but our city is going to look more and more like Toronto over the next 10, 15, 20 years. You can't stop it. So you just got to do it in the right places, and along those tracks is the right places.
It's really well said, Dylan. And that area you talk about in southwest Kitchener, if memory serves, I believe that was the last parcel that we had before we reached that countryside line where we could build neighborhoods, the likes of which that Dylan was just talking about. If you're in the core, this is what's going to be happening as we grow to 1 million people. Philip Mills of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region will join us in about an hour's time to talk more about the unintended consequences of the way our housing system is set up. So the theme will continue through the show this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Did you know that there is a choir that has been making music in this region for more than a century? 103 years now for the Grand Philharmonic Choir. And I had the privilege last Friday evening of listening to the Grand Phil's Children's Choir perform the national anthem before the Kitchener Rangers game at the Memorial Auditorium. Well, the Grand Philharmonic Choir is changing its image with a new logo and a new look. And here to talk more about that with us this morning is the artistic director of the Grand Philharmonic Choir. Mark Vornan joins the show. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Why does a new image and logo matter to a choir? Shouldn't we be more concerned with what we hear as opposed to what we see on the branding?
That's a great question, and you're absolutely right. I think the real primary focus of a choir should be what you're hearing. But a brand logo is, a part of our identity, part of how we are identified in the community, and we just felt it was a good time to come up with a new one. As you mentioned in the intro, we've been around for 103 years, which is really exciting. We had a big celebration 3 years ago for our centenary, and now we're looking forward into the next century. And what does it mean to be a big choir and an arts organization in a community? And we felt that having a new visual look would be a good start in helping us reach into new audiences and develop new programs.
I know that you don't come by things like this lightly, and the decisions behind them are not made lightly. What do we learn from this new logo and look? What is it telling us about your choir?
Yeah, it's a great question. We put a lot of thought into this process, and for anybody who's ever gone through a brand identity process, it's a really fascinating a process that takes several months to work through. We worked with a designer in Halifax who led the process in a way that sought our experiences and sought our opinions of how we view ourselves in the community, and created the design from there. So our new logo, looks, I think, to be quite traditional, and we are a traditional organization. We will always be, our sort of bread and butter, our mainstay is to do traditional choral works in concerts, and so the design that they came up with is a stacked lettering of the GPC, Grand Philharmonic Choir, that looks a little bit like a musical symbol called a C clef. Now, it's a bit niche for a general audience, but it sort of speaks to our tradition, but has a fresh new look. And I think it was important to do that now as we think about the kind of programming that we do in the community. We, in addition to the concerts that we give at the Centre in the Square and other places, and as you mentioned, at the auditorium, singing "O Canada" ahead of the Rangers game, as our kids did last week, we are looking to provide other kinds of opportunities and experiences for community members. These include educational things like a workshop that's coming up in early November to talk about and help performers through what we call stage fright. And so we have an expert who is going to help lead that. In the month of September, we had a workshop inviting community members to sing music by the composer Palestrina, who was an Italian composer, lived 500 years ago, and it was, this year marks that 500th anniversary of his birth, and it's just absolutely beautiful music, and we wanted to give the community an opportunity to sing it with us, to feel what it's like to sing in the midst of 100 other people. It's a pretty extraordinary thing. So this, visual representation of the choir is just a way to sort of reach into the community and understand that we are more than just a choir who performs largely old music, but some new music as well, but engages our audience in between our concerts in new and different ways as well.
I don't think that you could have been around for 103 years, Mark, without being more than just a choir that performs. But we've mentioned that a couple of times now in this conversation, more than a century of history with this choir. What would you say about the staying power of the Grand Philharmonic Choir in this community?
To do anything for 100 years is a real feat, I think, and it's a real testament not only to the commitment of our singers, of our members who come here and sing every single week because they love it. It fulfills them. It gives them a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging to something that's bigger than themselves. We were rehearsing last night till 10 o'clock in the midst of Game 7, and yet we had 150 people there last night. We all went home at 10 o'clock and watched the game, I'll tell you that. But we were there focused on our rehearsal last night because there's such a commitment to the music, to performing together and being a community ourselves. The second thing is we have an audience. We have a community that supports us, and that is so important and so critical that this community has, Waterloo Region has fostered a love for classical music, for choral music in particular, that goes back into our heritage, years and years ago. But that's always evolving, and we're finding new audience members recognizing that what we do is interesting to them and beautiful and create something that they love to experience.
The 2025-26 season for the Grand Phil kicks off on Saturday at the Center in the Square. What can we expect for the season ahead, Mark, and specifically, of course, on Saturday night?
Yeah. Saturday night is Beethoven. It's Missa Solemnis, probably one of the most magnificent pieces of music ever created. Beethoven himself certainly thought of it that way himself, writing it as he did in about 1724, a point in his life when he was already fully deaf, couldn't hear a note of it, but nevertheless penned the sort of biggest and most important work in his eyes of his entire career. It is triumphant work. It is heroic. It is bold and big, also intimate, and every sense of every human emotion is present in this piece. We're performing it with the Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony, which is an organization that is sort of our partner organization for many, many decades. And so that's a thrill. We've got 4 fantastic soloists. And here's the great news. After watching the end of Game 7 last night, I recognized that Saturday night is Game 2 in Toronto, isn't it, of the World Series. And here's the thing. The concert starts at 7:30. It's about an hour and a half long, so you can still come to the concert. It'll be done by 9 and still get probably about half the game after the concert. So it's a win-win for everybody.
I love that. And lucky you, because I'm going to be in Barrie on Saturday night doing another sporting event with our Kitchener Rangers. And I don't know how many ears I can pry away from Blue Jays World Series baseball, but I guess we'll all try for sure. Listen, Mark, love what you and the choir are doing in and for the community. Looking forward to the season ahead. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's great to talk with you.
Mark Vornan is the artistic director of the Grand Philharmonic Choir. A brand new season is about to get underway. Missa Solemnis on Saturday night at the Center in the Square. And Mark put it perfectly. You can enjoy that performance starting at 7:30 on Saturday night and still be home in plenty of time to catch the most interesting parts of Game 2 of the World Series. Forget about Josh Piercy and I on the radio in Barrie trying to attract your attention to some Kitchener Rangers hockey. There's a lot of great things going on. But I want to focus for another moment here on the Grand Philharmonic Choir and this century-plus long tradition now in the community. And you heard Mark talk about the staying power of this choir and how it's more than just a group that performs, but also those who do perform with the choir do so out of that love for music. They show up even when Game 7 is on. They rehearsed until 10 o'clock last night. It just takes me back to the power, the absolute, true, and honest power of music. And I think we recognize that on this show, right? We have fun with the music that we play. We do an all request Friday theme, even though this is an AM talk radio station. But we like to hear little bits of songs that we enjoy on Fridays here on the show because they mean something to us for whatever reason, right? Might bring up a memory, might just be a song that's an earworm to us, whatever it is. But music, it just has that power to take us places, doesn't it? To make us feel better. We on this show, and it's my fault that it stopped years ago, but we brought on to the show regularly a musical therapist, and we talked about the power of music in therapy, good for our mental health, good for our physical health. I'm always taken back, and I probably remember this as much because it was one of the first Shakespeare plays I studied, and I have to thank, if you had Mr. Curtin in St. Jerome's High School way back when, thank you, sir, because Shakespeare used to intimidate the HE double hockey sticks out of me until Mr. Curtin taught it. It was grade 9 English for me at St. Jerome's High School. And he just inspired in me this love for Shakespeare. So part of it is because this was one of the first plays I studied with Mr. Curtin. But I think also because the phrase resonates, and I've kept it with me all of these many years later. If music be the food of love, play on. The opening to Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. And I will take it. I will take that love and the food of it, if that's what music is, and you can play it and play it until my appetite is satisfied, which I don't think it will ever be. Grand Philharmonic Choir doing some great work in the community for 103 years and counting. They've got a refreshed look with a new logo and some rebranding as they launch into a new season, which opens on Saturday at the Center in the Square, Kitchener. You can check out grandphilchoir.com if you want to learn more about the choir and its series of upcoming performances. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, we just finished a conversation about the Grand Philharmonic Choir, 103 years strong in our community and about to embark on a new season. Speaking of long-standing traditions in this community, how about the 52nd annual charity auction taking place this Friday and Saturday in Elmira at the Elmira Produce Auction Cooperative on Reed Woods Drive. This is in support of Elmira District Community Living. And the executive director there, Cheryl Peterson, joins the show to talk more about it. Cheryl, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Can we start with a little more about Elmira District Community Living itself? Tell us more about the organization and what it does.
Sure. So the Elmira District Community Living is a nonprofit organization that has been supporting people with developmental disabilities for over 60 years in Elmira and the surrounding area. We currently support about 100 people through our supportive living and day and respite program. About 20 years ago, we built an assisted living center for our seniors, and we provide end-of-life care there in their home for them. So everything we do at the organization focuses on choice and community and helping people live as independently as possibly they can. We also have partnered with our housing corporation, the Elmira Supportive Living, back in 2010 to 2019, and we built 32 affordable housing units in Elmira. The goal was to create an intentional community where people with disabilities and those who do not have disabilities live together, supporting and learning from one another. It was a great example of what community inclusion looks like in action, and it's something that our organization really focuses on.
52 years now for this annual charity auction. Can you tell us more about the auction, Cheryl?
Sure. As you said, it's a 52 years. It's a long-standing community tradition in Elmira, and it's our biggest fundraiser. And it's held at, as you mentioned, Elmira Produce Auction Co-op, which we are so thankful that they donate that building to us for the day. And that building is just a few minutes north of downtown Elmira. So we start the weekend on Friday with our beef brisket dinner, And we added that about 16 years ago, and it has been a great hit. I mean, we print 700 tickets for that meal, and most years we sell out. So we serve 700 meals that night. There's still tickets available if anybody's interested, and I can tell you later of how you can get them. And then Saturday is the auction day, and that day is a mix of live and online bidding. And then we have a quilt auction, silent auction, and there's lots of other things, baking table, treasure table. It's a good venue to come and just eat the day away. And it really is an event that really brings people together, and it does remind us on how generous our community is.
You had me at eat the day away, Cheryl. I can get behind that idea. We'll fill our bellies and empty our wallets, but it's all for a good cause. The money that you raise during this auction, what are you able to do with it? What do the funds go towards?
Sure. The money it stays with our organization directly, and it goes to maintaining our homes and purchasing some specialized equipment for people. And we also buy accessible vehicles. We have 8 accessible vehicles in our fleet. And these are so important for people to be able to get around in their community. And people are very surprised at how expensive one of the accessible vans cost. Right now, we've got one on order, and it's going to be $150,000. So the funds raised through the auction really make a huge difference for us. We're just like hospitals or other nonprofits. We do get our funding for our operations from the province of Ontario, but that they don't cover everything. So the fundraising really fills the gap. And the best part, everything sold on Saturday has been donated. So when someone buys lunch or bids on a quilt or even grabs a slice of pie, 100% of that money goes right back to us.
You mentioned that this all starts with the beef brisket dinner on Friday night, and then we move into the auction on Saturday. I know last year you raised an incredible, just over $100,000 through this event. What sorts of things might we find at the auction on Saturday, Cheryl?
Sure. Yeah, the live auction actually starts at 10 a.m., both in person and online. And it always features an eclectic mix of items. It really depends on what people donate. So every year is different, and that's what makes it kind of fun. So this year, like I say, when I give you the website, people can go on there and check out all the items on there. But we have power tools, we have a gas leaf blower, bird feeders. Someone donated 2 snowplow blades. I mean, we got used windows. And then at noon, we have a lot of local furniture makers that donate wooden items. So we've got like a cedar chest, we've got stools, coffee and end tables, dining tables. And then what's really cool about the auction is that people don't have to come and spend $1,000 on a quilt. There are some items, just a bird feeder, for instance, that start as low as $5. And then, of course, then our quilts that can sell up for $100 or even thousands of dollars. And our quilt auction starts at 1 p.m. And it's always the highlight. This year, there are over 100 items, and over a third of them are queen and king-size quilts, which is quite a few for our sale. So we're very excited about that. And there's also woven mats, wall hangings, and crib quilts, and they're just stunning and very powerful. We also have the silent auction, and it features gift certificates and items donated by local businesses. It's a real nice way to shop local and give back at the same time. Yeah. And for those of us who like to browse, there's a big table, and there's also a treasure table, which is another favorite. Again, it's a real mix of donated items. It looks like a bit of a thrift store on steroids. You can walk around it 3 times and still find something new. And then, of course, I mentioned lots of food. There's the kitchen serving breakfast and lunch options, and soft ice cream, popcorn, and candy floss. There's truly something for everyone.
There's no wonder you do so well with this year over year, because you're right. You could just go there, you can stay, you can keep your belly full, you can find all of these great items. You mentioned that there are still tickets we might be able to get for the dinner on Friday night as well. And then we've got the auction Saturday. How can we participate in this, Cheryl?
Sure. You can join us in person at the Elmira Produce Auction Co-op, or you can take part online through our auction site. And the auction address is charityauction.bid @farwell.com/EDCL. So all the information about the sale is on that website. You can register. You can start bidding. There's a couple quilts that already have about $200 worth of bidding on, and you can buy your beef brisket tickets there. And if you're attending in person, you just need to come in and register and get a bidder number. You can do that online in advance, and then you're ready to join the fun. If you've never been to a live auction, I really recommend coming out. They're not something you see anymore, very often anymore, and Yancey Auctions and their auctioneers do a fantastic job of keeping the energy up. The back and forth bidding, it's really entertaining to watch, and even if you're not bidding yourself. And even if you're not looking to bid, you can still support us and just stop by for some homemade baking or come for lunch, because every single purchase does help.
charityauction.bid/EDCL. I just went to the site myself, and there it is. Everything right online for us. Cheryl, I wish you tremendous success. Let's raise more than $107,000 like last year, and keep up the great work. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cheryl Peterson, Executive Director at Elmira District Community Living. Check out charityauction.bid/EDCL. You won't be disappointed. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Some might argue that the writing was on the wall when it came to Stellantis deciding to shift production of its Jeep Compass from Brampton into the United States. Writing being on the wall, of course, because of the tariff war we are currently involved in. Or maybe it's not even a tariff war. It seems like one side's applying them, the other side is trying to figure it out. One of those people who I think was utterly unsurprised by the Stellantis move is our next guest, Jim Stanford, economist and director with the Center for Future Work. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Fair to say that you were not surprised by what Stellantis did?
Well, gosh, if we've been listening to what Donald Trump and his cohort have been saying over the last few months, they put it as explicitly as they could. Trump himself said we don't want any cars from Canada. His Commerce Secretary, Mr. Lutnick, was in Toronto a couple of weeks ago and said America's going to produce all the cars and there's nothing Canada can do about it. So their intentions have been absolutely clear, and they obviously say the same things to the CEOs of the different automakers. And now we see the first of the decisions that we have absolutely been frightened about or worried about. Company bowing down to Trump, shifting production from a high-quality, modern, profitable, productive plant in Canada. Their labor cost is cheaper than America. Their supply chain is excellent. But they're still moving production to America to try and keep Trump happy. And I'm worried this will be the first of several decisions like this unless we find a way to push back, not just against Mr. Trump, but against the companies themselves.
Well, and by bowing down to Trump and keeping him happy, Jim, it leaves a lot of unhappy people on this side of the border. And I would suspect that a lot of those unhappy people are in government offices, both provincially and federally, because Stellantis has benefited from a lot of what I might call government largesse.
Well, the company has really thrown every one of its key partners under the bus here. You mentioned governments, of course. So the federal and provincial governments both contributed to the cost of retooling that facility in Brampton. They have also supported Stellantis on their new venture to produce batteries for electric vehicles, which, of course, are going to be important in the future. And the feds have given Stellantis and other companies in Canada a deal to avoid most of the counter tariffs. We do have a counter tariff on American cars coming in to match their 25% tariff on our cars. But you basically get an exemption if you're producing cars here. So on all those grounds, they've benefited from government. They just signed a couple of years ago a collective agreement with Unifor, the union at Brampton, committing to that product and committing to fulfilling, fully utilizing the capacity at this newly retooled plant. And they've signed contracts with dozens of different parts makers all around Southern Ontario that were going to be supplying the parts for that Jeep and other vehicles that were being produced there. So here you've got Stellantis basically burning all of the relationships that an automaker needs in order to operate successfully. And they got to know, that Mr. Trump is happy. It's a big photo op for him, and the company probably thinks that will help them out in America. But they got to know there's a big price to pay on this side of the border.
You mentioned earlier, Jim, that you think this might be the first of many such moves that we see. What is your outlook on the automotive industry in Canada, particularly based on what we're getting in the way of tariffs from the United States?
Unfortunately, Mike, it's not just limited to the auto industry either, and this is one of the reasons that I think it's so important for the government to push back effectively here. Mr. Trump has two kinds of tariffs. He's got his across-the-board tariffs on everything from Canada, and most products get an exemption under the current free trade agreement. And, we'll see what happens next year. The whole agreement is up for review with Mr. Trump. So there's a big risk there. But right now, most of those products, think about our energy, our minerals, agricultural commodities, et cetera, are getting in tariff-free. But he's got a second class of tariffs. They're called the national security tariffs, where he has targeted several high-value, high-tech, high-wage industries for 25%, 50% tariffs, and there's no exemption. Auto is one of them, but there's a whole slate of others. Pharmaceuticals, industrial machinery, aerospace products, heavy trucks now have been added. These are all of the basically jewels in our industrial network, and they're the ones that Mr. Trump is really basically salivating over getting the companies to move down to the United States. So we will see other companies decide to do that, not just in auto, but across those different high-value industries. Unless, number one, we can try to get a deal with Mr. Trump that takes those tariffs off, but he's not doing that. He hasn't done that with any other country. So then, number two, we have to, present a proposition to the companies and use whatever leverage we have with them. That can be a carrot, like some incentives to invest here. It can also be a stick, because we've got a great big market in Canada. In autos, for example, $110 billion is what Canadians spent on new vehicles last year. Stellantis and all the other companies want a piece of that. So we can quite rightly now say to those companies, if you want to make that money selling in Canada, you're going to have to be producing in Canada, and even with Trump's tariffs, which make it complicated. So this is the bind that we're in, and what's clear is that just kind of sweet-talking Mr. Trump isn't saving us.
I couldn't help but notice when you mentioned earlier, Jim, that the labor costs were less expensive here. That was not my understanding. How so?
Well, we've got, first of all, a dollar that's, right now worth about 72 cents U.S. That helps us on the cost competitiveness front. We've also got a healthcare system. The public healthcare system in Canada is a huge benefit for global companies. In America, companies have to pay the private healthcare insurance for their workers, and it's expensive. It's about $10 an hour, and that's a cost that you just don't have in Canada. So on a cost comparative basis, adjusting for the exchange rate and all the other costs, payroll taxes, etc., it's significantly cheaper on the labor cost side to be in Canada.
What about corporate taxes here?
Corporate taxes in Canada are, let's see, the federal rate is 15%. The provincial rate depends what province you're in, but in Ontario, I think it's 11 or 12%. So together, that's a little bit higher than the federal corporate tax in the U.S. But remember, the companies have got all of these accounting tricks, basically, to move their profits around. Sometimes the profits will show up in a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands somewhere as a way to avoid their taxes. So the corporate tax difference for a global company with operations all around the world doesn't make much difference.
So getting back to the Stellantis abandonment, really, of Brampton and throwing all of those partners that you've mentioned, Jim, under the bus, how do we fight back against this, or do we just defend against it? What's the strategy here for Canada?
Yeah. Well, remember, the company has just rebuilt the factory. So, there's obviously an incentive for the company to stay here in some way, shape, or form. They have made some very, very vague statements that they have other plans for the facility. Now, that alone doesn't give me much comfort. Their plans could be converting it into a big warehouse or something. But they've just put, hundreds of millions of dollars of new robots and tooling and everything into that factory. So the ideal situation would be to get Brampton to produce other vehicles down the road. And remember, Stellantis' decision was all about, appeasing Mr. Trump. So they're not going to announce that they're going to put something else in Brampton right now publicly, because Mr. Trump will probably, get pissed off and say, well, we want that too. So you can see how everyone's kind of dancing around Trump on this. So I think there's potential to push back and get that plant working. It isn't a done deal that they're leaving. It's just this one vehicle that they've announced that is being transferred. So I think the way to do that is for the government to say, we've got a deal here. We've got a quid pro quo. You've benefited from these subsidies. The feds have already threatened to take legal action against Stellantis because all of those subsidies had covenants attached to them. It's not just, a wink and a nod. It's an actual legal arrangement. So Minister Joly, the industry minister, has said they could have legal action. And then there's other actions. This tariff remission program that I mentioned, where Stellantis doesn't have to pay the 25% tariff on all the vehicles they bring in from America. They sell a lot. They sold 130,000 vehicles in Canada, most of them imported. So they save, in excess of $1.5 billion a year by my estimates on that tariff remission thing. So those are ways that we could, I think, both sweeten the pot, but also have a stick in the background for Stellantis. And the deal has to be, you've got access to this good market in Canada, and you've got to be contributing something to Canada as well. Otherwise, you're going to be paying big time.
Jim, really appreciate your perspective on the show today. Thanks very much for being here.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.
Jim Stanford is an economist and the director at the Center for Future Work. And Jim argues in an op-ed published yesterday that Canada's industrial economy is on the line after Stellantis announced that departure from Brampton and the decision to move the production of the Jeep Compass to Illinois. This is an interesting time, isn't it? I mean, beyond how interesting the man in the Oval Office in Washington is making it. But just think of the automotive industry generally. And if indeed we follow Jim's argument and believe that Stellantis might just be the first domino to fall, think back. What are we thinking back here? 15-ish years to the time in and around 2008, 2009, when the too big to fail argument was trotted out and our governments bailed out really the big three automakers to keep them afloat with loans that were eventually, and we knew, I think, going in, they would be written off. So a massive bailout back in 08, 09, in and around that time. And now here again, we've got a company that has benefited from federal and provincial subsidies. I don't believe the provincial subsidies have yet flowed, but the federal subsidies certainly have. And we've talked a lot about corporate welfare, so to speak, on this show and how uncomfortable many of us are with it, period. Because why is a government getting involved in something like that? It's a $110 billion automotive market here in Canada, says Jim Stanford. If the automotive manufacturers can't see their way clear to profit from that $110 billion market, why should a government be subsidizing their efforts to profit from it or helping to boost those profits? That's the whole argument we've had many a time about corporate welfare. But here we are. And again, we're seeing a big automaker make a decision that hurts Canadian industry. I don't know necessarily where we go from here, if indeed this is the first domino. How big is that stick that Ottawa could or should be carrying? Should we consider the Flavio Volpe with the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association idea of creating a Canadian automaker, domestic automobile production of a domestic automobile? Do we need to open up our markets to China here and remove those tariffs at the risk, of course, of angering Donald Trump even more? It is a very interesting time indeed. And just to compound things, the news that we've been reporting just this morning from the 570 News Center about GM's electric van in Ingersoll and production of that being halted. That's a General Motors facility there. It is a tough time, and given how tough the time is, it leaves Canadian jobs and the Canadian economy exposed. It's at risk right now. Where do we go with automotive manufacturing specifically? Maybe our industrial economy generally. What should Canada's response be? Would love to get your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
We've got a great big market in Canada. In autos, for example, $110 billion is what Canadians spent on new vehicles last year. Stellantis and all the other companies want a piece of that. So we can quite rightly now say to those companies, if you want to make that money selling in Canada, you're going to have to be producing in Canada, and even with Trump's tariffs, which make it complicated. So this is the bind that we're in, and what's clear is that just kind of sweet-talking Mr. Trump isn't saving us.
Jim Stanford, an economist and the director at the Center for Future Work. He says Stellantis has got some kind of nerve turning its back on Canada after getting the subsidies and benefiting from them that it has over the years. And, oh yeah, there are other partners also being run over by the bus as Stellantis makes a hasty exit from the building, all to appease the President of the United States. So clearly we are exposed. We knew that we would be. Jim believes this Stellantis is just the first domino to fall. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Mike sends me an email to mike@570news.com and seems to be of the same mind as Flavio Volpe with the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, and that is, Mike's email says, we have everything we need in Canada. Instead of laying off these auto workers, hire them as construction workers to build our own facilities so that we don't have to rely on the USA. We can build our own cars. And Flavio Volpe has argued for a domestic automobile manufacturer creating a Canadian-made automobile. And Mike seems to feel similarly. Let's go to the phones. Sean, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I am reminded of that old curse. May you live in interesting times. Yeah, I'm not really sure that we are big enough. Companies want to make money, and maybe we do have a big enough market to build our own vehicles, but I'm not sure. The one thing's for sure, though, is I don't think Donald Trump will allow us to have electric vehicles because he is going to penalize any company that it tries to build here. I think our best bet, in all honesty, is we are going to have to shake hands with the devil, and we're going to have to allow the Chinese to sell vehicles so we can sell stuff to China. Like I said, it's a deal with the devil, but what are you going to do? Obviously, Donald Trump, there's no reasoning with him.
Yeah, Sean, and you're not the first person to suggest that we do open up our markets more to China. Do that so-called, as you put it, deal with the devil, which will, of course, anger the other devil, that being Donald Trump in the United States. Like, do you want to deal with the devil or, and again, as Sean correctly points out, that old proverb, may you live in interesting times. Are we ever? Jersey Bill on the phone with us this morning. Hello, Billy.
Hey, hi there. Yeah, what I really feel is that perhaps Canada, along with the more liberal countries of Europe, should get together and make a counterweight to the U.S. And if you decide to deal with China, it seems to me it might be not entirely a deal with the devil. If you tell China the price of doing this is to incorporate, maybe democratize a bit. It's not to China's long-term advantage for them to be such a top-down country. They're going to need to essentially, for lack of a better word, liberalize. And if that kind of economic power can be a counterweight to the United States, hopefully after the MAGA virus or the MAGA fever runs its course, that the United States might also realize that it's in its best interest to work toward benefiting workers, benefiting people, rather than benefiting corporations, because that's unfortunately what Trump is doing. It's almost the kind of fascism that he's actually promoting, and I'll use that word, is one which is corporatist and is for the benefit of the big owners and the billionaires, as we see, and that really is not a good way forward for anyone.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about letting the mega virus, as you describe it, Billy, run its course. I'm not entirely convinced that it will. Like, don't you think there are some strains of this virus that may remain even beyond Donald Trump?
There always will be. I mean, people think that the United States was always this paragon of democratic virtue. No, we allowed the southern states after the Civil War. They were defeated in the Civil War to essentially run their states as they were apartheid before apartheid became a thing in South Africa. In fact, South Africa had its own, it modeled its own horrible system on them. So there have been times when some really horrible things happen in the United States, along with democracy and elections. There are parts of America which always will stand reform. And, you know, as you see with the demonstrations that recently happened, maybe there's a 50% plus one, or hopefully more like a 60% group of people in the States that are really going to want to turn the page on this. And that's what I'm really hoping for.
Billy, appreciate the call and the thoughts as somebody who is a native of New Jersey and getting a little bit of an American perspective there. Okay, we've got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and then we'll come back to a conversation we were having earlier about housing, but look at it through a different lens, and that is the way the system is built and the unintended consequences of the way we have built our housing system. That conversation coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I love it when a plan comes together, even when I had no intention of creating such a plan. I did know that this is the third Tuesday of the month, and on the third Tuesday of every month at this time, we're joined by Philip Mills, the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region, to talk about housing. What I didn't know is that Phil, in his recent op-ed, would be talking about something very similar to a discussion we had on the show earlier today. Whoops. Where'd that come from? We're good on the other side over there. All right, I just got a thumbs up. Everything is fine, and we're going to connect with Phil. Good morning, Mr. Mills.
Good morning.
We talked earlier this morning on the show about a new condominium tower development in Waterloo. And some of the residents in that neighborhood are saying, listen, we understand we need more housing. We just don't think this is the right kind of housing. And you are having similar thoughts as you look at our market today.
Yeah, I'm interested not just in housing, which I think probably makes sense. Like I'm, been involved in Habitat, we care a lot about housing, but, from our perspective, housing has always been so much more than just a building. Like we're talking about homes. This is more than just a roof over your head. And so one of the things that troubles me and that I think about often is, as we strive to fix a crisis, as we strive to create opportunities for people to have appropriate housing, are we creating something that is good for people to live in, where they want to live, that will help in, help encourage, thriving and flourishing of the community? Or is it simply just what we get? Do we end up with something because of the way the system is structured and the way that stuff happens? Or is this really what everybody wants? And I do worry from time to time that we're ending up with a lot of this is what the system creates, not what anybody really wants.
I feel similarly, and you get into the weeds of this a little bit, and I think it's pretty instructive to understand. So let's look at that system a little bit further, Phil, and what it means, because you talk about the number of doors, for example. So how is the system currently constructed whereby it might just be giving us what it can give us because of the way the system is designed?
Well, I think usually first thing in the morning, people want a lot of math. So I think that's probably where we're headed here. Without getting too deep, because there is some weeds to this, but at a high level, if we want more housing, where does housing come from? It's usually either government supported or it's going to be in for-profit development. And if we look at the way the government supports housing, it's often saying, hey, we need more housing. So how do we create more housing? In the end, what that, asks is, hey, we're going to support you. We're going to fund, we're going to give money. We're going to, give loans. We're going to do this work to create more units. You're looking at like the number of doors, and they'll talk about per door funding. And the unintended consequence of that is, if you have the opportunity in the same kind of footprint or square footage to build 1 unit or 2 units, you actually get more funding if you build 2. If you have on the same square footage and the same space the opportunity to build 2 units or 4 units, you get more if you build more. And it kind of makes sense intuitively. Yeah, we're paying per door, we get more if we build more. The unintended consequences, that encourages those who are building the houses to build smaller and smaller units. Because if I can put more units on a square footage in a space, I will get more funding. And so rather than asking, what does the community really need? Like, we're not paying, I've always thought we should pay for bedrooms. Hey, we're looking for family homes. We're looking for a space. Where can somebody go and live? Well, does this place have 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, or 1 bedroom? Well, if you want it from a government funding perspective, what you might end up saying is, while we could fit a 3-bedroom, unit or home here, we're going to do 2 1-bedrooms because I get more funding. And so you're encouraging smaller and smaller units. You're encouraging smaller footprints. You're encouraging more doors. But I don't know that that necessarily encourages the best livable space for people. And so this is the economics of it, because it's expensive and it's hard, and finding funding is hard, and the government is doing all they can, and the local providers are doing all they can. And so they have to partner together. And so you start seeing that I don't think this is necessarily what everybody wants, is smaller and smaller units for more and more doors, but we need more housing. And so you're in this sort of existential crisis between, we need more, and it also needs to be bigger. And it just, there's a tension there, and we're driving at ultimately what is not probably best for everyone.
And this is exactly where our conversation went earlier this morning, Phil, when the residents in Uptown Waterloo were talking about a new tower that's going to be about 15 stories higher than nearby existing towers, because, again, the higher we go, the more units that we can put in. And when it comes to livability, one of our guests suggested that it probably isn't in the minds of prospective owners to bring a child into the 29th floor of a building and have the outdoor space be the balcony, which speaks then to the pressures that are put on municipalities to create amenities and green spaces around these buildings, et cetera, et cetera. I've got another buddy who's looking at places these days, and you talk about size or square footage. There are condominiums for sale that are in and around 400 square feet. Now, he's just one guy. He might not need more, but my goodness, 400 square feet. When did we get to that point in the market?
Exactly. Well, because everything comes down to a square foot cost. If you're a for-profit developer, you're looking at your cost per square foot and what can you afford and what can you ultimately make some money on, because there is a business. They are trying to make money. So again, if you're selling on a square foot basis, at times you're then driven to smaller, because if you're going to sell 4 units, let's say, and they're 1-bedroom or studio units, while that might be a lower purchase price than selling a 2-bedroom unit, if I can sell 2 instead of 1, it's still better economics. And so the economics and the realities of the way, the unintended consequences of us driving for more. And I realize the tension and the oddity of every time I come on here, I said, we need more housing. We need to work at building more housing. And I'm also saying the unintended consequence of looking for more housing is we're not necessarily building the best housing for people. And I think we can, as a community, want it all. We can say and we can desire that there are opportunities for everybody in different places, that there are opportunities for families, that there is housing built with livability in mind, that we're not going for maximum density at all times because that's how we get the most funding or we make the most money, that we're saying what makes our community thrive. And we can do that in a way that creates enough housing that we're not in this sort of deficit where nobody can afford it and the rents are too high. And it's not an undoable thing. It's not as though we can't find a sweet spot. But right now, the system is really pushing us towards smaller and smaller units because we need more and more density. And I don't think that that's necessarily best for all of the people living in the community. And so we need to find better solutions. We need to find different ways to approach this. Like we can't, I don't want to throw baby out with the bathwater here. Like I'm not saying hey, we need less density. That is not the answer. What we need is smart density. We need the right type of density. We need density that is designed for the people who are going to ultimately live there, not just based on the funding and economics of it.
So how do we go about then reimagining this system? What different approaches might we be able to take to undo some of these unintended consequences?
Well, I think this really comes down to what, this is going to have to be, municipally driven, government driven. This is going to have to be not-for-profit driven. And, go into our own sort of world and perhaps toot my own horn a little bit. Like, that's what a lot of Build Now work is going. That project we're doing up in Waterloo is really focused on how do you create missing middle housing, the housing that isn't incentivized, that the market doesn't create, that isn't there necessarily even from a government funding perspective. We've committed to, we're going to build housing people actually want. We're going to build units for families. We're going to make sure livability is a focus on these things. It's not just how many can we cram in, but what is the best way to build a proper neighborhood, which can have density. Like, this is not how do we get back to rebuilding suburbia. That is not the answer. We're not trying to rebuild suburbia. And I think the focus of how do we get more white picket fences, it can't be in the extremes. It can't be more white picket fences and taller and exclusively taller buildings. There is an in between where we start to say, what does a community that it looks like, not the biggest high rise you've ever seen, but also not one building on every lot. There is an in between where we can still build for families. We can build for more bedrooms. We can build for community that is livable and accessible and wonderful to be in, and still has enough that we can actually meet the demands of our community. Like, that sweet spot exists. And I think that's what we're aiming for and building up in Waterloo. Excited to show that to everybody, and hopefully maybe the idea catches on a bit.
I think the key to what we're doing with Build Now, or keys, plural, I mean, we've got a municipality, Waterloo, that had declared the land surplus that it could be dedicated to this purpose. You've got a building community involved in this that is involved in an altruistic manner, not taking profits out. I think these are the sorts of these are the sorts of projects we need to incentivize somehow.
Exactly. If that's the way that we do this, what we can't do, the sort of idea, like, the system's designed to get the result it's getting. We're getting smaller and smaller units because that's what the system has created. And so what we've tried to do is say, if we want something different, we're going to try and create something different, realizing that we have to create a different structure for there. Because if it is left to the developers, and they're good people, they're not trying to cause harm. They're businessmen and women out building what makes sense and what's going to sell in the market. They have investors and people so they're not going to be able to build this because it doesn't make sense from a profit margin standpoint. And the government's way that they've organized their funding is per door, which means it's not going to make sense for this sense. So we've decided we're going to build what the community really needs. And we would love for the government to get behind and incentivize something like that, thinking less about, doors and maybe more about, bedrooms, more about families, more about a broader kind of holistic approach to housing versus just how do we get as many in as possible. And I think if we're not careful, we'll end up creating, an opportunity where we have fixed a problem. We have housing for people, and it doesn't create a healthier community. It doesn't create the thing that we really want, which is stability and opportunity for people, because we've just created the lowest thing possible, which is a roof over the head, which everybody deserves. But I think we can actually desire more from our community and more for the people who live here.
Always give me something to think about during these conversations, Phil. Thanks very much for being here again.
Thanks for having me. It's great every time.
Philip Mills is the CEO at Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region. He joins us on the third Tuesday of every month, 11:30, to talk about housing. And again, something to consider here, more than just housing, but the right kind of housing for our community. A quick break. When we come back, House of Friendship is changing the way it helps those who are food insecure in our community. We'll tell you the story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you have lived around these here parts long enough, you are probably accustomed to an annual food hamper drive through the House of Friendship, where food hampers are delivered during the holiday season to families in need. Usually accompanying this food hamper drive is a turkey drive, one of the items that goes into this Christmas food hamper. But this year, the House of Friendship is going to change things up in an effort to meet an increasing demand for food in our community. Claire Wagner is the Community Services Director with the House of Friendship and joins us to talk more about it. Claire, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
I really appreciate you making the time to talk about something that I think we're all very familiar with, and that is the work that the House of Friendship does every year around the holidays to make sure people have food. But you've changed things this year, I think, to evolve with increasing demand in the community. But what do these changes look like?
Yes, thank you so much for helping us get the word out. We are changing things, but we are very much still committed to providing food support with the incredible help of the Rotary Turkey Drive. So they help us raise funds to make folks' Christmas season special with some food items. And what we are doing is shifting away from the delivery approach and shifting towards an approach where folks connect to that food for the Christmas season through sites that they might already access year-round or could access into the future. So the goal here is to remove barriers like registration. A number of folks last heard from us last year when our website was crashing and our phone lines were crashing because there was just so much demand. So last year, we supported about 4,700 households with food support. This year, we're looking to increase that to about over 6,500 households. So we needed to do it a little differently, but still very excited to help people get support.
What prompted this change, Claire?
As I mentioned, so last year we opened our registration in the beginning of November, and within 4 days our registration closed after filling up so quickly. And our first day we crashed those lines, and it really was this pause for us to say, hey, how do we serve folks better? Year-round in Kitchener and Waterloo, we're providing food to over 4,300 households every month, and then the need goes up in December. And so we know that we're going to be needing to support more folks and wanted to take out those barriers like registration.
So does that mean then, you talked about these food hampers being available or being accessed at places that folks might already be visiting. So, is there a lesser demand then for volunteers on your part because you won't be doing deliveries door to door, for example?
We will certainly still need more volunteers, so we're going to be working with partners there. We're just one of many who provide support to people in Kitchener and Waterloo who need food. So we will still need volunteers. Those opportunities are going to look a little different than they have in the years past. And folks can find information about how to volunteer and support. There's christmassupport.ca. It's information about the whole region, and that's where you can find how to volunteer with our new program and the way we're doing things this year.
You've described this as a more than food approach. So what else besides food is involved in this?
The idea here is that folks who don't use our programs now or don't use any of the food assistance programs in the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo, by going there to get support for food during the Christmas season, they can then use that program again. And a lot of the programs that we operate, they also connect people to their neighbors. They connect people to other resources and programs. So the idea here is really to be able to wrap around folks beyond a one-time delivery for the Christmas season.
When we rewind the clock about a year, Claire, to when registration opened last November and it filled up so quickly and it crashed the website. I mean, What is the impact of that on folks at the House of Friendship and all of your supporting partners, recognizing that, oh my goodness, there's so much demand and we've already met our capacity for a year?
Those are really hard moments, and that's why we took a pause and we work within the Community Food Assistance Network, and the demand just continues to grow. So that's why we knew we couldn't just do that same process again for this season. Food is a have to have. It's not an option for folks. And so we want to be sure folks get connected to food all year long, but we're so thankful for the Turkey Drive and the Rotary and the donors who make that possible, because they can help us get more people, more food through that Christmas season.
I know we're just late October here, but we're getting in. I know, and it's worth looking ahead because we know you talked about after 4,750 households last year, getting up above 6,500 this year, and you're not going to do it without community support, Claire. So how can we as a community get behind your efforts?
Thank you so much. And it's so true. This is a community effort. So all of the special support that goes into Christmas for our work and many of our partners is fully made possible by donors. So for us, the main donor there, again, the turkeydrive.ca, people can head over to that site. And then if you don't live in the cities of Kitchener-Waterloo or want to connect people, we do food support. And of course, we know folks are looking for toys. So we like to get the word out there that the programs vary in the community. ChristmasSupport.ca is where you can find specifics of how to give, how to volunteer, and how to get support for food and toys no matter where you live in the region.
Claire, really appreciate you making time for the show this morning to explain this. And here's to a lot of community support and a great drive again this year.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen. We have an incredible region, and we are so thankful for the people who support our work to wrap around those folks struggling with poverty in our community. Thank you for the time.
Thanks very much for joining the show. Enjoy your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Claire Wagner is the Community Services Director at the House of Friendship. I was just writing down the website, ChristmasSupport.ca. That's where you can go to learn more about how you can support the efforts that the House of Friendship is undertaking with partners across the community. And if you are going to be in need of some of that support, again, that is your one-stop place to find that information. So make a note of ChristmasSupport.ca. It took all of 4 days to not only fill the available registrations last year, but crash the website. And that leads to some difficult moments for these organizations that are trying so hard to meet the needs of so many. So things are going to look a little bit different this year, but the goal is to actually increase the number of households supported. That turkey drive through the Rotary Club is still going to be happening at turkeydrive.ca. And then the House of Friendship will again take the lead on this initiative to ensure, because as Claire said, food is not a luxury item. It is a necessity. And isn't it nice for all of us to have even a little bit more come the holiday time? So there's food, there's toys. It's the more than food approach. And all of the information is at ChristmasSupport.ca. Maybe, too, you can help out by way of volunteering this holiday season. I know it's late October, but it's going to be here before we know it. And the House of Friendship is making sure they are appropriately prepared. All right, I have to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then, I don't know about you, but this day is flying by. We have already reached the talkback point of our program where you get to start the conversation. Maybe you're still celebrating that big Blue Jays win. We've had conversations about the automotive industry and housing in our community on the show already today. Let's continue those conversations with your thoughts to spark the conversation. Talk Back coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
That is the sound that launches us into our hour of unscripted radio. Unscripted because really it's up to you. It's like a choose your own adventure. Remember those books from when you were a kid? You make the phone call, I'll answer it, and you get to start the conversation. And you know, speaking of unscripted, yesterday on this show, we had an in-studio guest who used some salty language, forgetting perhaps for the moment that we were live on a radio station that has a license to manage. And he dropped a wee little 4-letter word and was quickly apologetic for it. But, you know, I felt far less bad about that last night when John Schneider dropped not one but 2 massive, like emphatic F-bombs on the field during post-game interviews after the Blue Jays won the American League Championship Series. We are going to the World Series, baby, if I haven't mentioned that yet today. But anyway, just when I said unscripted, it made me think of that from yesterday. We paled in comparison to what John Schneider did on the field, on live television last night. Sometimes these things happen. Let's just hear from you. We can talk some Blue Jays baseball, obviously, if you're still excited about that. We've had some good conversations about housing on the show today and what is the right kind of housing. And, oh yeah, by the way, don't look now, But automotive in Canada could be in a wee bit of trouble. Our guest from the Centre for Future Work suggested that Stellantis abandoning Brampton with its Jeep Compass production to appease Donald Trump in the United States may be just the first domino to fall. Let's get to the phones and start things off. Joe is with us, and I hope it's the Joe I'm thinking it is, because he has got some Guerrero Jr. groveling to do. Joe.
How did you know?
Oh, yeah, baby. MVP, MVP, MVP. And I'm not talking about you, pal.
Hey, you know what?
What?
He earned the frick out of this.
Yeah, well, and what are you, how does that crow taste, pal?
Okay, so you got a leg up in the debate, all right?
Uh-huh.
This is one I'm happy to lose.
Okay.
Okay? I'm happy to lose this one. The dude got the MVP. And the numbers are the numbers, even though you could make an argument that Springer should have got it. But the numbers are the numbers, and you can't argue with the numbers. So in this case, I'm happy to lose the debate. There you go.
Thank you.
I get satisfied now.
I am so satisfied. I just want to say one more thing, though. I told you so. When you first started this ridiculous debate, before the playoffs even started, I told you so, Joe.
He was crap for a month and a half before
Settle
the
down.
playoffs.
Whatever.
You
Anyway.
have to admit that.
No. He was hitting, dude, he hit 300, very close to it, 20-odd dingers, 80-some-odd RBI. He was fine. I know you want 50, 60 home runs, whatever. He was fine. And defensively, terrific. What?
$500 million.
$500 million worth every nickel.
You got to do something for that $500 million, and he's doing it.
Can I tell you something?
There you go.
Here, so I was reading about Shohei Ohtani last night, and apparently the $700 million the Dodgers paid him, they say they made back in the first year because of ticket sales, merchandise, etc.
Holy crap.
Well, what?
Holy crap.
Yeah, holy crap. So what do you think they're getting? Vladdy's like a bargain at $36 million, and he's already, they're going to the World Series, and they've got home field advantage, Joe. I saw our big boss, Edward Rogers, out there accepting the World Series trophy last night. I'm like,
make you sick?
No, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'm like, you made such a good move signing this Guerrero Jr. guy.
Well,
yeah,
it remains to be seen, and let's go Jays.
Thank you, Joe. Good to hear from you today. Joe was all down on the Vladdy contract before the playoffs even began, and Vladdy made a lot of people reconsider their positions. Batting over 400, 6 home runs. It was a key again last night. Absolutely love it. The tears in that young man's eyes after that game last night. Incredible. Doug is Farwell's Force member number 14. Good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Good afternoon, Mike. Couple of things here. Just the Blue Jays, the game last night and the night before. Totally awesome.
Amazing stuff.
And you had another caller call in yesterday asking why the Maple Leaf games aren't on 570. I have listened to about 3 games so far on 570.
Yeah, I think he just must have missed something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last point is the Cami Stellantis issue.
Oh, yes.
I spent over 40 years in the automotive parts manufacturing business. And back in the late 90s, I did a lot of visits to the Cami plant. We produced parts for the Geo Tracker and all that there. And I think what's going on now is everybody's trying to appease Trump and make him happy. And I truly believe with all the hundreds of millions of dollars that they've poured into this, not only GM, but Stellantis, they're not just going to walk away from the plants. And I think once Trump is done, you're probably going to see these plants reopen again. Especially Cami, where they're just building a huge addition to produce EV batteries as well. And in the mid-2020s, they also expanded the manufacturing plant as well. So something will be back once Trump's gone.
All right, Doug, appreciate that call. And listen, I don't think either GM or Stellantis are saying the plants are being closed. But there's no question. And in the Cami situation, this is just a market for EVs right now that is not what GM expected it to be. And when it comes to Stellantis and Brampton, there's no question. This is a repatriation of automotive production to the United States in an effort to appease Donald Trump. But the plant is still there. Stellantis hasn't abandoned the plant entirely, but what it's going to do there in the foreseeable future remains up in the air. So I like Doug's optimism insofar as the belief that once Donald Trump's term is over in 3 years, these productions will come back to Canada. But I just don't know. We talked about this with Jersey Bill on the show earlier today. I'm not entirely certain that this entire perspective of how the world should operate and America's place in it is going to disappear entirely when Donald Trump disappears from office after his term is up, if indeed he doesn't try for a third term. But I think there's a lot up in the air as far as that's concerned. That's just from where I'm sitting. Kyle, you are next on Talkback.
Farwell's Force, number 6.
Number 6, a single-digit Farwell's Force member.
And guess what, Mike?
Yes, sir.
We're going to the World Series! We're going to the World Series! We are going to the World Series! I cannot repeat that over and over and over again because you're just going to run out of time on your show. Mike, can you believe it, man?
No, I actually still can't. I still can't believe it.
I had tears in my eyes. I literally did.
So did I.
We all did.
So did I.
We all did, right? But Mike, I can't afford the ticket prices, but I'm having a watch party because we're going to the World Series. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. We are, in fact, as a nation, going to the World Series. And how did it come to pass that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to the World Series? Well, there's this guy, and his name is George, and he said before the game that he was really looking forward to Game 7. And then in the bottom of the 7th inning of Game 7, with the Toronto Blue Jays trailing 3-1, George Springer did this.
1-0 pitch. Swing and a fly ball. Left field and deep. Rosarena turns. Gone! A Springer dinger. 4-3 Blue Jays in the bottom of the 7th. One knee, no problem. You have to have that guy in a big game, and he crushed a pitch out to left center.
You have got to be kidding me, Ben. That is the best moment in sports I have ever seen.
I have watched that home run and George Springer's run around the bases, I don't know, dozens of times again this morning, and it still gets me choked up. The picture of George dancing, jumping his way down to first base is on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show, because as Kyle just reminded us, we're going to the World Series. This is Talkback on The Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'm going to say maybe cloud 7. That's the 2 rungs we have climbed down from cloud 9 since the big home run last night and then Jeff Hoffman coming on for the save to send the Toronto Blue Jays back to the World Series. Is it okay if I feel just a little bit badly for the Seattle Mariners? They're like our little brothers, came into the league at the same time the Blue Jays did back in 1977. And have never been before. Not only have we been before, we've won it twice, and now we're going to get a third crack at it. I know we have to play that super team from Los Angeles, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and the Los Angeles Dodgers, but my goodness. I do feel a little bit bad, though, for Seattle. But I'm continuing to celebrate right along with you the Blue Jays' big win last night. And we have other issues that we talked about on the show, from housing to Canada's automotive industry, so it's an open line hour for you to bring to the show whatever it is that matters to you. Let's continue. Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Gotta be loving it. I'm on cloud 12. I'm telling you.
I love it.
I'm not coming down.
Good man.
But that was one stressful game last night, I can tell you. But the euphoria afterwards was unbelievable. And they had the guy on CP24 this morning that caught the ball. And he went by himself, and he actually posted sometime yesterday afternoon saying that he was going to catch a home run last night.
Get out.
He did, and apparently he's got it on his post. I don't go on that stuff, so I don't know. But apparently he had posted that he was going to catch a home run last night, and sure enough, that bugger did.
Absolutely amazing. And he was wearing a Springer jersey.
Yes, that was even better. Apparently, he said that ball went into his glove. It came out of his glove. He reached out with his other hand, and the ball went into it. So it was just amazing to watch. I can't wait for Friday, and we're going to have a lot of U.S. people cheering for the Jays because they just can't stand the Dodgers.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, I thought I was the only one.
Oh no, there's going to be a lot of fans, I think, in the States are just going to be cheering for us. So I can't wait, Mike.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm with you, Paul. Thanks for the call today.
You bet. Take care.
Good to hear from you. I am a little bit ticked with that guy, though, that caught the ball. I've said this before, and it's just a little thing. But I would love someday foul ball, home run ball, a ball that was in play, not thrown to me after an inning, not from BP. I want a ball that was in play in the game in my hands. I've gone to so many baseball games, major and minor leagues. It's like playing the 50-50 at the Kitchener Rangers games. I'm destined to never win, but that's okay. I watched this guy. How much more fitting could it have been? A guy in a Springer jersey catches the home run ball hit by George Springer, and it just so happens that home run gave the Blue Jays the victory over Seattle last night. We're going to the World Series. Afif, what is happening? What is happening? What, Afif, what is happening?
Hey, okay. How are you, Mike?
Afif, are we keeping you from something else right now?
No. We're good.
You're not good at all. I can barely hear you. What are you doing?
Yeah, I put you off the speaker now.
Oh my gosh. I love when people call and they've got other things going on in their car. Like it's like we're an afterthought over here, Afif.
No, I just might just have to start talking. But anyways, the reason why I called so late is because I was in Seattle watching Game 4.
You were in Seattle?
Yep. I went to go meet my family, and they're all like, let's go watch the game. So I watched the Game 4 of Toronto Blue Jays and Seattle Mariners.
That's amazing. Where's your family? In British Columbia or in Seattle? In Washington State?
In Seattle.
Really?
Yeah, I got a nephew there, so I was like, he's like, yo, the game is on, and I got an extra what's that called, like, seat. So he's like, you want to come and watch the game? I was like, yeah, I'll get a seat.
How was the trip?
The trip was fine. I mean, I hate what's that called, U.S. because they all hate Canadians. Well, they all hate Canadians, but they're all like, oh, you're from Canada. Oh, how's it like having to go through what's that called, tariffs? I was like, don't remind me.
Well, listen, appreciate you calling in and sharing that. One of these days, I'll tell you what, Afif, next time you travel, buy yourself a new phone because your phone doesn't come through perfectly well all the time. But what's it like going through tariffs? And Afif is like, let's not talk about that. I've never been to Seattle for a baseball game, but I've been led to believe that the city of Seattle and the Mariners fans have no problem with Canadians showing up to support the Blue Jays when they're there. So Afif was one of them for Game 4, and that was a big Blue Jays win. Imagine that. JB, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, Farwell, how you doing?
Good. I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I was in the city last night. I was at a concert, so I wasn't at the game, but we literally got in the car and turned 590 on, and it had just missed the Springer dinger.
Oh, just after the big excitement, eh?
We caught Chris LaRue saying greatest moment in sports history that I've ever seen, or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Caught that live. And then as we're driving through the city to get back to the highway, literally every Bassett strikeout, every Hoffman strikeout, everybody was honking their horns. Everybody was cheering. We were on, by the time Hoffman was on, we were on the 427, just screaming with the windows down. People must have thought we were nuts.
It sounds like you were screaming with the windows down, JB.
Yeah, you should have heard me last night. I sounded like RFK Jr. by the time I got home.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Cheers.
All right, thanks for the call today. There's a lot of Blue Jays fever going around. Dylan, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mike, appreciate what you said about Seattle there. Everyone's just got to realize we were, one strike away from, potential end of season ourselves. So Seattle did a great job, really put us through the test, and glad we came out on top.
What do you... go ahead, sorry.
Like I say, I was just talking about your comment there about Seattle. But the reason I called, our city's residents have proven we cannot have nice things.
What happened?
The fireworks last night.
Oh.
Just, it is so far out of hand. Again, I said earlier on the show, I'm over, southwest side of Kitchener. So many people lighting off fireworks. Well past the 10:30 or the 10 p.m. deadline, basically into this morning, past midnight. I have a neighbor who lives across the street from me. His fairly new Tesla car was getting showered with sparks. So he came out obviously upset, and his neighbors would not stop lighting fireworks off in their shared driveway beside this man's Tesla. The cops were called. It was a big to-do. So if you're a person that enjoys fireworks just simply to see the light in the sky, or because it's, a part of your culture or whatever, talk to your family and friends. Like, if the question ever comes up to me, should we ban fireworks or not? My answer is 100% yes. And I love fireworks, but like I said, we've just proven once again we cannot have nice things.
Dylan, appreciate the call. And I'd love to get behind you on the idea of a ban, because I totally understand where you're coming from. But, of course, we can ban them and people will still get their hands on them and do this sort of thing, unless we ban their production entirely. And, well, we all know how that's going to go. I feel for you. I feel for your neighbor. I get it. And I feel also like we are screaming into the wind on this. Our continued commentary and our pleas around this are falling on deaf ears, because those who need to hear it are either not hearing it or they are willfully ignoring it. We get this every time there is a fireworks-related celebration now, be it Canada Day, be it Victoria Day, be it Diwali. This is what happens with fireworks in the community. It's incredibly disappointing. I agree. I don't know truly what we do about it. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I just had a chat during that news update with one of my coworkers who is also what I will kindly describe as one of the other elder statesmen around here. And we were just talking about the last time the Blue Jays won the World Series, when he and I, of course, were both adults. I heard so many people last night talking about never having seen this before, or being 2 years old, or whatever the case may be. Jamie Pulfer, our morning reporter, during All News Mornings today, talking about how most of the current Toronto Blue Jays roster was not even born when last the Blue Jays won the World Series. And then my coworker made a reference to this clip. Whoops, that's my own fault. I put the thing, hang on, I turned off my sound because I was messing around during the news update. My coworker made a reference to this.
1-0 pitch. Swing and a fly ball. Left field and deep. Rosarena turns. Gone! A Springer dinger. 4-3 Blue Jays in the bottom of the seventh. One knee, no problem. You have to have that guy in a big game, and he crushed a pitch out to left center.
You have got to be kidding me, Ben. That is the best moment in sports I have ever seen.
And so my coworker says, how old is Chris LaRue, whose voice you just heard, that is the best moment in sports he has ever seen. It was great, make no mistake about it, but, you know, some of us saw Joe Carter hit a World Series winning home run, just for an example, but it just goes to show how old some of us are. And for a new generation, this is it. Some of us cut our teeth with George Bell and Lloyd Mosby and Tony Fernandez and a whole bunch of others. And then, of course, those World Series teams with Paul Molitor and Joe Carter, and it just goes on from there. Mike Timlin and Todd Stottlemyre, and oh my goodness gracious. But here we are. A brand new generation of fans gets to know what baseball success is all about. One of our other coworkers put together a really nice highlight reel, which I will play for you before 1 o'clock, I promise, because it is a celebration in audio form. But let's get back to the phones here on Talkback. Elias, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fine. By the way, did you get this coffee I sent you this morning to wake you up?
Wait, I saw that you sent me an email, but I'm so far behind on my emails today. Is it another Toronto Blue Jays cup?
Yes, that's the one.
I love it. I love it. Good man.
Yeah, I was just trying to wake you up because you're going to get busy today. That's why I sent it.
Listen, Elias, I need a bigger cup of coffee because I stayed up way past my bedtime last night.
I will send you another one tomorrow. Don't worry.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I was watching Joe Carter 1993 when he hit that home run.
I remember it too. Yep.
That is the year I came to Canada.
Really?
I swear to God, that is the year. Still, I remember that Joe Carter when he hit that home run.
That's amazing. What a great connection to that memory.
Since then, I was watching and I keep saying, when I'm going to see the next one. So it's coming right now.
It's coming right now. Absolutely it is. What do you think the chances are against the Dodgers?
We're going to go up to 4-2 for Blue Jays.
You think the Blue Jays are going to do it, eh?
Sure, why not?
I love it. Yeah,
why? In Blue Jays.
Why not? So
I believe in them.
You came here in 93. Where'd you come from, Elias?
I don't want to say it's from Africa, somewhere like Ethiopia or Somalia, that Horn of Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, I came from there.
Well, I'm glad the Blue Jays are going back to another World Series for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm going to see before, because it's too long. I'm waiting so long, and I'm so glad that I'm happy to see them again.
Well,
and hopefully they're going to win.
You please send me another coffee tomorrow, okay?
I will. My number is 184 anyway.
Thanks, Elias. Have a great day.
You too, buddy.
Okay, bye-bye. Elias did send me an email at 9:09 this morning. I'm so far behind on all of the things. Little distracting here at the radio station today. There's Halloween candy all over the place. And in case you missed it, the Blue Jays are going to the World Series. But Elias sent me an email, official Farwell's Force member number 184, by the way, with a photo of the Toronto Blue Jays Tim Hortons cup. It looks great. I love it. I'm sure the coffee was delicious. I might just drink another coffee in the next few minutes because I did stay up past my bedtime. And this goes back to what my coworker and I were talking about, the other elder statesman during that news update. Because Elias says he's been wondering since Joe Carter hit that home run in 1993 and he first came to Canada, when they're going to win another World Series. And my colleague was saying during the news update, doesn't this just put into perspective how long it's been for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Don't think that has not crossed my mind. I was a full-on, full-fledged adult. I was in my early 20s when the Blue Jays won the first time. And so here we are with them going back for a third trip. Never in my life have I ever even seen the Leafs make it to a Stanley Cup final. Forget losing the cup in the final. They haven't even been to the final in my lifetime. And dare I say, that year, 1993, when Joe Carter hit that World Series winning home run, Was that the last best playoff for the Toronto Maple Leafs? I know they made a good run with Matt Sundin earlier this century, but I go back to that 93 season as probably the best I've seen in Leafs history. Our coworker, PJ, who works on the country station with Robin and PJ in the morning on Country 106.7, which you could always listen to before you hop on over and join us for some conversation every day. PJ put together a little something to celebrate this trip back to the World Series for our Blue Jays.
He's the most clutch player in postseason history, it seems like. So, just a huge swing from an amazing player. Yes, I'm living it all, and I'm giving it all.
Here's the 3-2. He got him!
You were 16 years old when you signed with this organization, and now you are going to the World Series, Vladdy.
We do this for the city, man. We do this for y'all. We do this for y'all. 4 more, baby. 4 more.
First time in 32 years, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to the World Series.
This is a season to remember.
This is unbelievable for me. This is my 24th year with this organization, and I love it here. These fans, this country, you deserve all of this. It's not about me, it's about every single one that's behind me, and I couldn't be happier to represent this team.
I'll be honest, it makes me really emotional to think about it. This is what we live for. This is what we all thought about in the backyard with our dad or whoever it was. So, to have a chance to bring it back to Toronto is special.
First time in 32 years the World Series comes back to this city and this country. So proud of every one of you. Enjoy every single moment of this tonight because you guys earned the out of it. Let's go!
I'm just so happy for everybody here, our fans, our city, our country. This is for them.
What a beautiful piece of audio put together by our buddy PJ. Robin and PJ in the morning on Country 106.7. Robbie is with us on the phone. Talkback. Hey, Robbie.
4 more, baby.
4 more. You just heard Vladdy say so. I'm great. How are you?
I was actually, before he said it last night, I went straight to Facebook as soon as the bottom of the 8th finished, and that was it. 4 more, baby. So yeah, no, it's amazing to be. I'm still a new Canadian. I've been here 20 years. I mean, me and you have talked lots of times, but I wasn't here in 93. I came in 89 on vacation, but left it a little later to actually emigrate. But, I got to see the Raptors do it, and I've got to see the Argos do it, and hopefully I'm going to get to see the Blue Jays do it, which kind of somewhat softens the blow for not seeing the lazy buggers at the Scotiabank Arena not doing it.
Does it really, though? Does it really, though? Come on. We're coming up on 60 years.
No, but honestly, the last time they won it was the year before I was born. But it hurts every year. But I have a more important team to concentrate on, and you know who that is. So I'll take a memorial. I'd love a Stanley Cup. I really would. I've got Maple Leafs tattooed up the back of my leg. I've been a Maple Leafs fan since long before I emigrated, but I'll take a Memorial Cup over a Stanley Cup.
Oh, I would too, Robbie.
Yeah.
I would too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, buddy.
All right.
See you from Section 19.
I look forward to it. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to be honest with you because it's the only way I know how to be. But I let that foolishly, I know I shouldn't, and now I'm even saying it out loud, but I let it cross my mind last night, what Robbie just talked about. Because I would take a Memorial Cup from our team right here in Kitchener that we feel so much more connected to. I mean, yes, as a fan and going to games and following along with the Maple Leafs, it would be amazing. There's no question about it. But I came here, so I mean, I grew up in Kitchener, but I started broadcasting with the Kitchener Rangers after they won their last Memorial Cup in 2003. I came here in 04-05 from Guelph, where I had been broadcasting OHL games. And we went in 08. We won the OHL championship that year. I know I'm saying we. And got to the Memorial Cup final, but lost to Spokane. And that's it. We haven't had a sniff since. Couple of close runs. 2018, last year we got to the West Final as well. 2010 we got to the West Final, but didn't get to the OHL championship, didn't win an OHL championship. Have not since 2008. And I got choked up last night watching the Blue Jays. I really did. When Springer hit that home run, there were tears in the Farwell household. And I just thought, my gosh, I'm so invested in this team, and I really am enjoying this group, the Toronto Blue Jays, that I've got a little bit emotional just watching a game. And I let it cross my mind. Like, could you imagine? I can't even. I'm just going to leave it right there. But I'm with Robbie. Let's go, you Rangers. Bring home a Memorial Cup for us. Come on. This is Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh, wouldn't you know? We're just talking before that commercial break about the Kitchener Rangers. Why not? Why not the Rangers winning a championship? And the CHL top 10 rankings are out for another week. And where do we find the Kitchener Rangers? Number 8. That's 8th best or 8th ranked in the country. Thank you very much, Kitchener Rangers. On that list this week. Hey, somebody said to me earlier today with regard to the Blue Jays, why not us? Well, Kitchener Rangers, why not you? Or us, because you play for all of us here in the hockey-mad city of Kitchener. Chris sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. He says, yeah, Springer Dinger works, but how about, because it's fall, George Tober? It's not bad. George Springer having himself a whale of a playoff, as is Vlad Guerrero Jr., as is Ernie Clement. It's been a lot of fun. 4 more. They won't be easy to get, though, against the LA Dodgers in the World Series. Let's get back to the phones here on Talkback. Tom, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. Welcome back.
Where did I go?
Well, I didn't speak for a couple of weeks. You were away at that time. But...
Oh, well, then welcome you back, Tom. Hi.
Okay. I just want to thank the American boys for the Blue Jays and the American head office at Blue Jays. Like, you can hate them, but these guys, they come through. They love our country, and they're very good people. So I just want all this, political stuff. Just enjoy the game because the boys are doing good.
Hey, Tom, I really appreciate that. And, they do. You heard them talk about how the entire country deserves this, and we love this. Vladdy was saying, we do this for you, as in the city of Toronto. It's true. Now, in fairness, Vladdy was actually born in Montreal, but I digress on that point. These are largely American players, America's pastime, being played here in Canada. But isn't it always the case, if you get past the political rhetoric, as Tom points out, and you get to meet the people, you find out that it's not so bad at all, quite frankly. And I would say that in reverse as well, because with part of my job and traveling with the Kitchener Rangers, and when Tom just alluded to me having been away a couple of weeks back on a long road trip with the Rangers, we crossed the border multiple times, played in Michigan in both Flint and Saginaw. And let me tell you, at the border with the border agents, they were beyond pleasant to deal with. There were no hiccups along the way. And in the cities where we played and the folks that we met along the way, they were terrific. So if we can put the politics aside and just focus on the people on an individual level, things tend to work out pretty darn well overall. So good reminder, Tom. And we will continue to support the largely American and other players, nationalities that are playing for Canada's baseball team, because we're all behind the Blue Jays. They've got about 41 million fans right now, I think, across this country. They are Canada's baseball team because the Montreal Expos no longer exist, of course. And there's a new documentary out, which actually premieres tonight. Oh, my goodness. Who killed the Montreal Expos? Anyway, it's about the Montreal Expos. And they're actually screening it at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in St. Mary's, which it promises to be incredibly interesting, because there was that time that there was more than one Canadian baseball team, but no longer, and we're all behind our Blue Jays. Just reflecting back on Dylan's call before the 12:30 news, and by way of reminder, brace yourself tonight, because some of or many of your neighbors may be, again, setting off fireworks because of the celebration of Diwali. Sounds like it was particularly bad last night in some parts of the city, because regional police reported having many fireworks-related complaints called in to their offices. And Dylan suggested earlier, once again, that this is why we can't have nice things. And I understand that sentiment. And I don't really know where to go with this or what can be done about it. I have suggested in the past that I feel as though we are less tolerant than ever of things that get under our skin. We're probably quicker to anger or frustration. Things get under our skin more quickly. So I think there is some aspect of that. I mean, if it's one night and people are setting off some fireworks a little later than you would like, meh. But I get it. And you have every right to be upset. The other thing that I've referenced a number of times is how much more crowded, how much denser our neighborhoods are. And when you live that close to so many people, you're going to run into these frustrations more often than not. I don't think that the bans that we're talking about of fireworks in our community are going to make a tinker's darn worth of difference. But I guess we'll see moving forward, because that's what some jurisdictions are moving towards. It's tough. It's tough. But I'm just saying now, be ready for it again tonight. Later today, this afternoon, in fact, at the Center in the Square in Kitchener, Mayor Barry Verbanovic will deliver his annual State of the City address. We'll make sure that Mayor Verbanovic is on our show with us tomorrow morning, 9:30, to talk about that State of the City. We'll find out where we're at in Kitchener. We'll get an update from the Blacklocks reporter minding Ottawa's business, as we do every Wednesday. Blue Jay Hunter will be here to set up the World Series versus the Dodgers, and Rob Deutschman with some political R&D. All of that on the way tomorrow here on the show. Thanks very much for being a part of it today. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.